profit or buy, and we'll never tire. We do not comply. We do not comply.
With the microplastics?
With everything.
That's pretty crazy, isn't it? There's microplastics in our brains and our penises.
I mean, I see them in my dong all the time.
You just take peas and it looks like Fun Dip or whatever.
Oh, look.
Do I look too low? Yeah,
I should stop chewing my pens.
Yeah, but they're delicious.
They are.
Yeah, when we were in school, they were delicious.
I used to chew the shit out of my pens. I wonder if kids probably don't even have pens now. They do type everything.
It would look, and then you know what you do? You'd leave it in your bag, and then you would chew it some more, and then you'd have that same pen for weeks.
And then you'd chew someone
And none of
else's.
us got COVID.
And then you'd accidentally chew somebody else's, and they'd be like, "What the fuck?"
Or pencils. Remember the kids that chew the pencils?
I would
They-
chew
that-
pens so much that they would pop in my mouth because I would just like chew on them so
Oh, wait, like
long.
the ink?
Yeah. Often.
You just come home look like. Bleh.
I mean, I would clean it off, but like you have like a little bit of like a blue
Off your
stain.
face?
Yeah.
You clean it out of your mouth on your
Yeah.
tongue?
This is hilarious.
Okay, so welcome, Tom.
Oh, we're rolling.
Yeah, we're always rolling.
Yeah, we're good.
Make sure you keep that about a fist from your face. And
so,
you
so I
can,
have to test that.
yeah, you can. Well, you know, your whole family's like recording.
No, I know.
Push it up for him.
Push it up for
Yeah.
him. Yeah, keep it at like your chin. You are school director for the Scranton School District.
And that is one of the things.
So, give us the quick rundown.
I
on
do
what-
70 other things, and you start there.
Yeah,
I'm cool with that.
but you're also an entrepreneur. You have restaurants now. You have a cidery. You have.
He's perfectly set himself up too over there. If you notice, with like the bottle and the drink right there.
Oh yeah, it's all branding.
Yeah.
Here, let's move that over a little bit.
Oh, there we go. Electric
There you
City
go.
Cider works. This is not. This is not cider. I didn't bring any because I'm stupid, and we ran over to Cooper's.
All right, so tell me all the things that you're involved in the city.
I mean, well, geez. So I'll start with like the PTA. My kids, like the sports that they're involved in, West Wrestling, I'm a big supporter. So those are like the more micro or neighborhood things. But the biggest thing citywide, I would say, is, well, actually it's school board because it's a $250 million budget.
Oh, good thing I brought it up first.
Yeah, good thing. But,
Oh, okay.
But I got into real estate development. I think that's probably only going to continue to grow as a business, and I enjoy it because some of the buildings that we ended up buying as a family, my brothers and I, Mike and Alex, we bought 3 buildings on the square, one of which was condemned forever.
Is that next to Chef Fawn and Mom?
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. It boarded up. It looks like shit. It still does, but we're doing construction. If you walk by, you'll see that there's all new windows. We're putting new apartments in, brand new top of the line type stuff. There's a massive demand. People haven't even seen them yet, and they're like, I want in. And that's kind of cool because also the views of Courthouse Square are gorgeous. So,
At night you can see drunk people.
yeah, especially on parade day. I made the mistake of not drinking on parade day.
Is that a mistake? Are we sure that's a mistake?
Until like 5 p.m. It was the first drink I had because I was working most of the day, and I went downtown to go get a pizza from Da Vinci's, which is one of the things I own and am involved in. There were just people who definitely just didn't know who they were anymore, and I'm like, oh my god, was this me in my 20s?
Yes, it was
Yeah,
us.
It was us.
Somebody said to me on the last parade day, they're like, the crowd isn't that big, but the bars are full.
So that actually was the case. It was really funny because what we did was we licensed the space to be able to sell cider down there at Da Vinci's, and we got nobody. Nobody was interested until and then we shut down because we're thinking, oh damn, this sucks. And then the drunks came in to sober up at like 5. And had we stayed that late, we probably would have crushed it. But that's fine. Next year we'll have an actual cidery on the square for the parade, so that'll be.
Can you do that outside, or do you do that inside, or what do? You do it inside Da Vinci's?
So we did it inside Da Vinci's. We just licensed it for a day. So when we open the actual cidery, because we're putting one in that condemned building I was just referencing, we'll have some space out onto the street. We're gonna get the big, it's gonna be like a big city type thing. Get those sliding doors so that we open it.
Oh, that'd
the
be
whole
great.
thing. Yeah.
And you're gonna have outside seating, maybe?
Yep.
Oh, remember when they did that during COVID and everybody was able to walk around town with drinks and stuff like that?
The good old days.
Yeah, and it wasn't really a problem. Like the outside, like the drinks to go and stuff like that.
So I don't think Well, we can do drinks to go. You're not supposed to drink them, but because we can sell things like growlers and crowlers, 4-packs to go from our establishment once we're open downtown.
I just remember that, and they were like, "Oh, it's kind of like New Orleans."
Maybe Scranton
when they allowed that to happen, and then they rescinded it. Is that what happened?
Yeah,
I'm not for drinking, but
I don't know.
I'm not against the open container thing.
Well, like you still can't take like a bag of liquor out of a bar anymore, right? 'Cause, like that was the thing that you could go and get like your whatever kind of crazy mixed liquor drinks for a while during COVID.
Yeah,
that was the drinks to go thing. But I'm talking about like they were allowing you to basically
grab a
open
beer.
carry.
Yeah.
Like you can walk down the street drinking a nice tall Budweiser if you wanted to.
Maybe they didn't. Maybe you could still just go do it.
I think they pulled it back. I think they were doing it because of the outside seating thing, and then there was whatever.
It's all right. So I'm involved in all those. I have a cafe and catering business up in Factoryville.
Yeah, what's the name of that? You're doing that with Patty, right?
Yep, Patty Haggerty and I. It's called Creekside Cafe. It's awesome.
I've been talking
there
to-
like 3 days a week.
I've been talking to Victoria about going ever since you guys did it, and we just haven't had a chance because my wife likes to sleep when she's not working till noon.
Well, I mean, who wouldn't?
Yeah, I want to go up there and get like a breakfast.
Where's it at?
Right on College Avenue in Factoryville.
Okay.
It's right along the creek. So as it's been getting warmer, we have a beautiful deck overlooking the creek.
Yeah, that's what Patty said. Patty's like, once it gets warm, you guys definitely have to come up.
Yeah, it's been great.
Okay,
So school board,
so
go.
let me. Yeah, fuck it. Let's just do that. Okay. What has? I'm just gonna go off the script right now. What? It seems like, and I guess when you have like 9 elected officials that the public voted for, you'd think that like their best intentions would be the things that they were elected to do, i.e. like safety, education, being good stewards of the taxpayer money, blah, blah, blah. But like one of the reasons why I decided to run, back in the day, and what I've noticed is like, I don't like the idea of as long as you have 5.
So I agree with that. That is, however, unrealistic.
And I'm saying that because it seems like there's factions.
There are.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
And you're the only one that's willing to come talk about it.
I'll talk about anything.
I know.
I'll call out anybody. I don't
Yeah.
care. And the thing is, and I've never cared. And I think that's one of the reasons why I finally ended up getting elected, because I would, and I don't do this now, and I'll tell people who are listening why. I used to go on Facebook and like live Facebook every meeting, and
Yeah, I remember you doing that.
I would fact check them. I would talk about how like some of them would be personally profiting from these decisions. I would break it all down.
And that really ruffled feathers.
They hated it, and so but now I can't do that because I'm literally there. I can't,
Yeah.
I can't. It would probably not be cool to like live tweet.
Yeah.
While I'm on the stage, like trying to listen to a constituent.
Right.
So I don't do that anymore. But the other thing is, I don't really post about it too much, because when there's a problem, I go fix it or find out about it. So if something comes up, I'm going to make my phone calls, send my emails. I'm going to get the problems. Like either I'm going to find out what they are, or I'm going to address them. And then I'm going to go back to the person who called me and said, hey, this is going on. Can you look into it? So that's way easier rather than going on Facebook and screaming. Back then, when I wasn't on the board, Facebook and screaming is a very effective tool to get people's attention. There's nothing a politician worries about more than an angry constituent, especially groups of them.
Or bad optics.
Well, and angry constituents can easily create bad optics.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not as antagonistic, although some of my board members, think I'm abrasive as hell, and I don't care. It's just that
I always liked you because you'd tell me that you'd stab me in the heart before you stab me in the back.
Oh God, yeah.
And people don't. It seems like there's very delicate people that don't like that approach.
Oh my Lord!
Even though it's the most honest and the most true.
It's funny. So I think I've talked about this on the podcast before. So like my dad is a white guy, so he's passive aggressive. And my mom is Lebanese.
You're
Italian.
white?
My dad's a white dude, fully white, and my like the stereotypical. He's like German, English, and Scottish. So
Yeah.
Whitey McWhite. And
Does he know you call him that?
I say it often. My mother told me that was offensive. And my mother's the Lebanese Italian one. So
It's Kaiser Whitey von White.
so my mother is Italian and Lebanese, and so she's like aggressive versus passive aggressive. So I'm used to both, and it's really funny having that personal dynamic and interacting with other board members, because some of them are so passive aggressive, but they're like mean about it. So it's not like I'm going to make a suggestion that's like, oh, you would look better if you did this, but you look great, but you look better if you did this.
Yeah.
No, it's more like just straight, like everything you're doing would be better if you just didn't do it. Like, and it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. See all that you're doing? Stop.
Yeah.
Don't do any of that.
Yeah. And
it's terrible.
And there's no constructive side of it. My mother would be like, I love you, but what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, I would rather the directness than the passive aggression. And we've got some members who are tough.
But doesn't that work? Because like you immediately know the position and you know where someone's standing.
Yeah. So I'll actually tell you my greatest frustration, and is something. So one of the things like I've tried to over the years as I've like grown up, I guess, because I guess we all do it until we die.
It's all up. Every day, brother.
Yep. So one of the things I've done is I'm not afraid of a fight, as you know, but lots of people don't like that. So I try to figure out how to talk to people without being abrasive, because sometimes people take disagreement as anger. And so like if I'm debating you, it doesn't mean I hate you or I'm angry with you. It means that you have an intellectual position that I'm interested in.
Right.
Like I was talking to a principal about an issue that came up, and this principal said, let's just put all of our cards on the table. You don't care about anything except music. I said, no. I'm arguing with you because I want your position, so that I can understand it, so that I can then go hear the other side's position and then make a logical decision.
Sure.
I'm playing devil's advocate. It was funny because as a teacher, I'd have students who thought I was wildly liberal or wildly conservative. I would just argue the opposite of whatever they had said, just to make them think about their positions. So that's how I gather information, through debate and argument. But most people don't operate.
Well, we
that
forgot
way.
how to do that.
Well, some people maybe never knew culturally. But I grew up, especially in my Mediterranean family, like that's how you interact. You interact with a debate, and it's an intellectual exercise.
But what it also does is it challenges the idea that's been provided in front of you.
Yeah.
And it also helps you rethink your idea at the same time.
Yep.
And I don't understand why that's so like taboo to not do.
Because,
I mean, I understand because they're weak-minded, weak-willed people, but
I'm going to give you two examples that
make America terrible again.
There you go. Right. Like the hat says. I'll give you
I can't be MAGA, so I have to be make America terrible again.
MATA.
Yeah.
I'll give you two examples like related to my 8-year-old, and these things happened recently. Like one of my 8-year-old teacher said that my son Tom he's got a really strong sense of fairness, and he has no problem arguing with an authority figure if he believes that figure is wrong. And
it's a good quality.
And he wants to know, like he needs them to reason out why this is fair or why he might be so good. And, obviously he gets that from me, but that's not necessarily a good trait, because sometimes he's going to run to an authority figure that doesn't want to hear that. So like he'll know I learned, so it's a good thing. And he also, gets, if I don't really yell, but if I'm like, Tom, what are you doing? He's like, stop yelling at me. I'm like, I didn't yell. He's like, you're yelling with your face. And I hear this little guy growing up, and obviously you pass on traits. I'm thinking, shit, people might see my body language or whatever, like read my face and see a fight, but it's not. But not everybody's going to know that, because it's just kind of how I grew up, and it's just my style. So I have found that people just don't like disagreement. They don't even like it in writing. Like if one of the things I like to do if I'm aggravated a board member or find them to be doing something that is inappropriate, I usually will keep quiet, because fighting doesn't add anything to the conversation. But sometimes the narrative gets changed by the people who are loud, even though they are incorrect. So that means the people who are normally quiet or try to be quiet need to open their mouths and set the record straight. You saw that at the meeting, which I'm sure we'll discuss more. The meeting that you were at on Thursday.
Last night.
Well, yeah. I don't know when this is going to air.
Yeah, so Thursday.
Yeah, good job, Tom. I like that.
I try to think.
I try to think.
So when you're dealing with these people, sometimes they just need to hear something. And like, I'll give you a really fun example. One director. So we got a list we got a bill list we hired a special counsel to review something we were doing. Like we were going to get a new solicitor potentially. And we did that on Thursday. And so we got the bills, and 83% of all billed phone calls were from one director, and it was in the thousands of dollars. And she lied on stage and gave the wrong number. She said
83%.
83% were all just her phone calls. One director, and that was Tariani. Actually, I don't give a shit. I'll give her name. And she got mad. She got mad that her name wasn't redacted because I found out. I'm like, what is going on here? And she was mad about the redaction and not being redacted. What lawyer doesn't tell you who they spoke to and then sends you a bill? It's like, ooh, I can't tell you who I spoke to or what I did, but it was 7 hours at $175 an hour. Yeah, you itemize. That's public record. If the district is going to use public dollars to answer your legal questions.
I hope the lawyer's keeping track of what you're asking and who's asking it.
Yeah. And also the public deserves to know. So she's been at these meetings going on and on about transparency. We've been transparent as hell. But when she brings up, in the interest of transparency, let's do this, this, and this, and the paper picks up on her quote, it's like, oh man, I was silent because I knew she was lying. But no one said anything, so she got away with it, and now she's framing the public narrative. And that sucks for me as a director because it's like you don't want to give attention to, spoiled children, but you have to respond to them. That's why what you saw at that meeting was a lot of us speaking up and speaking out and correcting the record. So
do you think that she doesn't think she was lying? Do you think that she thinks she was telling the truth?
So you're talking about psychology.
In other words, like it's easily provable to be like 80%.
So if she's got mental illness, then this is off. Like there's no way to answer that question. And I am not qualified.
How does I don't understand how a lot of the frustration I have with politics is, and a lot of the stuff that top down, whether it's national, the news, all that stuff. It's like a lot of these things are easily, with a couple of searches and reading a couple documents or whatever, you can easily go like, oh, that person's lying.
So,
and if anybody is capable and willing to do that, they can easily be found out that they're being deceitful or mistrusting.
So, to get into
I'm trying to understand why people I feel like I've realized over the last 5 years that there's a lot of claims of gaslighting, but a lot of the people making the claims of gaslighting are they themselves the gaslighters.
Yes.
And I'm trying to understand why it's easily found out that what they're saying is not true, yet they believe it.
So I don't know whether or not they believe it, or I think it actually might just be artful deception. So I'll give you an example. And I didn't run Yanni's numbers, which were not true. But she might have looked at certain things and said, oh, well, I'm only going to count these
as the things that I did.
As the things. So maybe because I think it was phone calls that were that 83%. Emails. She sent there were nearly 200 emails to this man who's worked for us for a month.
200.
Yeah. He said that, he said it was unusual. He was very diplomatic.
200.
Yeah. And actually, it's probably more than that. It actually is. That was as of Wednesday.
So let me ask.
So it's probably more by now.
So let me ask a question. And I totally understand that there's things that you can't disclose, right? So in a decision like this that a board makes, right? Now, also, I remember hearing last night that you didn't have to put it out for RFP.
Nope.
You could literally just by vote.
Yep.
Get who you want. You can fire who you want.
Yep.
And then hire who you want.
And we're talking specifically about solicitorship. We can't, if there's there's a teacher watching, you're good.
Yeah. So the process of that, and I'm assuming that you hired third-party legal counsel to not muddy up the process.
Exactly.
No one had that this legal counsel did not in the past or in the future have any vested interest in any of these decisions, so he could be as pragmatic as possible.
Absolutely.
I don't know if this is true, but what could you possibly send 200 emails about?
God.
So let me ask it this way,
I can
right?
tell you.
So let me ask it this way. So if you're interested, if you have some sort of suspicion, it has to come from somewhere. And that somewhere has to be provable for you to have a suspicion. And it seems like searching for something wrong as opposed to I know of something wrong. Am I kind of parsing that right?
Oh God, yeah. So what they were doing was trying to.
Also, I didn't know you were going to go this far with all this. So
No,
go.
you're good. So
No, you're good.
What they were trying to do was engineer the outcome that they preferred, and they did it in a way. It's really funny because like we dealt with the bus contract and a judge who was like, this could be bid rigging, which is a crime. They were doing the inverse of that. So instead of potentially like rigging a bid to enrich somebody, it was, rigging or influencing potentially, because allegedly, whatever the hell, but they did what they did, to deny somebody the chance to be there. And one of them, falsely accused, did this privately to influence a vote, falsely accused a law firm of they were about to be under indictment for criminal charges. Like just made that shit up.
Yeah.
To try to influence another board member. And that's defamation. Like, you know what I mean? You can't do that shit. So that if that influenced it negatively and say the vote failed, there's a massive lawsuit because they can just say, oh, well, it was a 3-year contract. We didn't get any of the money we would have billed for 3 years. This cost us millions. Boom. Scranton School District sued again. And these people on the board, the two of them, Fox and Yanni, I don't care.
Oh, now he's telling everybody.
I don't give a shit. And if they watch whatever, they can go complain on Facebook to their friends. But, I have the receipts. So they were on the board during the bid rigging thing with the bus contract. You think that they would wise up by now and not behave this way?
Before I don't want to get off topic.
Oh, no, I apologize.
But the bid rigging thing, I mean, that's a pretty heavy claim.
So so I was saying what they were doing is the inverse of the statute. So instead,
was there bid rigging?
So I would say allegedly. So basically,
if there's no, like, you see what I'm saying, where it's like,
so the bus
we got to watch what we say.
I said allegedly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I did.
Allegedly, Dan is a lady.
As long as you say that, Star Jones said it's okay.
Well,
Star Jones said that. Okay.
We had a speaker bring it up at the board meeting the other day. I mean, it is a thing that we worried about as a district in the past. Not me. I was not on the board, and I don't do that stuff. But was there bid rigging? I'm going to tell you a fact that happened because I saw it. There were times when. So first of all, the reason the bus situation, the district lost the suit. Because there were multiple times when one of the vendors, Pete's Garage, contacted the district and said, do you have everything
This is all public information.
It's all public.
Right? Okay.
Do you have everything you need? And they're like, yeah, you're good. And then they got disqualified for not submitting enough materials, even though they specifically said, are we good? And we're told yes. Then I saw documents, and they're still, I'm sure they're probably right to know accessible, where I'll give you one really egregious example. The contract said that if there were increases in gas prices, the bus company would absorb those costs. And I saw the strike-throughs and the copy and paste in the email from the bus company that lost the contract saying, oh, no, just change this. And the change was the district is going to absorb those costs. Who negotiates against themselves?
Right.
So, and these things happened. So, I mean, is the evidence out there?
So in other words, they were not awarded the contract. So Pete's Garage, which was willing to be competitive, and you can negotiate after an RFP, which is a request for proposals. So they were not awarded it. They were disqualified, and a company called Christ got it. And then the judge, in an 11-page, Judge Gibbons, great judge, he gave a scathing opinion, just demolishing the district and saying this is wildly inappropriate. Rebid this. This just gone. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of how much did that cost?
I mean, we probably spent. We had to
rebid it.
I don't know the total cost. I mean, it would be tens of thousands in legal fees because the district decided to fight. So the law firm billed like crazy. We're in court fighting back and forth. So I'm sure, like, if you told me it cost us into the six figures, I would say that makes sense. And the other thing. This one. Like,
so people are playing behind the scenes and it costs probably upwards of six figures.
Yeah. And actually it's even worse because no one ever talks about this, but we bid the bus contract out because, the Auditor General was mad at DeNaples Bus Company that had the contract. And when we rebid it, both of them came in way higher than DeNaples, but DeNaples didn't bid He's like, I would have given you an extension at your old rate, but you dragged my name through that. Well, I can't speak for him, but I would have his name was dragged through the mud.
Yeah.
And he just walked away from everything.
Yeah.
And let's say it's $145 a bus. Well, the next was like, he would have extended it, but then now it's 185. I'm just throwing numbers out. I don't know the exact numbers, but that's the thing. Nobody even talks about that. So they're like, we're going to go bid this out. We could do an extension and negotiate with the person who's already here, but sorry, you fell for the smear campaign. That's why, like, I struggle with the whole speaking up thing that I brought up earlier. Like, sometimes it's easier to just, okay, we can win the vote, and that's what's important. So I won't say anything because I know where the vote's going. But then you let the people who are negative at bomb throwers, win the argument. Because in my mind, I'm thinking it's not worth the argument. They're not worth arguing with because they're so obviously wrong. But not everybody has the information I have. So I have to learn to be better about sharing, what's going on with people, which is one of the reasons why I was excited when you texted me to come on the show.
Yeah.
Because it's been a dramatic week.
What a week.
What a week in the Scranton School Board, and here's the thing. This is why people should pay attention to stuff like this. Just about $250 million a year budget.
The Scranton School District, just so people know, is the largest budget of any governmental body in northeastern Pennsylvania.
Yeah, the only one that is comparably larger might be Hazleton Area School District.
I'm not so sure. You're $250 million.
They're probably a little bit more, but I think it only might be $255 million.
I mean, it's massive.
Yeah, we're massive. Yep.
And that entire budget, where does that money come from?
So the state underfunds us,
Yeah.
which we've talked about that many times on the show. Wildly underfunded, the most underfunded urban school district in the state by a long shot. Still, even though Senator Flynn has been doing a good job helping us restore that funding.
Yeah, Marty's good on that.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
With a big help to the district. So it's property taxes. If we don't have the money from the state, Scrantonians are paying higher property taxes. Simple as that.
But it's okay. Devil's advocate. It's not that simple because people can't afford them anymore.
Agreed. So in the time I've been on the board, I've done 2 budgets, no tax increases.
So is there a way? Is there any looking at ways to if you go deep back into like the foundings of everything, whether it's school districts, cities, municipalities, counties, all that stuff, right? They were originally all self-sufficient.
Yeah.
They subsisted on their own people. Why is it now that we have to be reliant or dependent on state or federal money?
So, I mean,
like, don't you think it gets bloated and it gets too big
to an extent? So, you're asking a really complex series of macroeconomic questions.
I think it's a fractal problem, but
I mean, it's all over the place. So this one's going to be real hard for me to attack simply, but I'm going to try.
Okay.
So the first half of your question, explicitly stated is, why not handle ourselves versus, do it on a state or federal level. So federal funding is a small fraction of our budget. I think only 10 million out of our nearly 250 is federal. We should be more state funded. So basically the state levies a different series of taxes. The state exists as and no government is efficient. So I'll just lay that right out there, but it's a more global entity than the city of Scranton. So resource bases change, populations change, income levels change. So you would think the state would be the stabilizing force that insulates cities, townships, and boroughs from the ebb and flow of time. I mean, Scranton used to have 150,000 people and be the coal capital of the world. Not so much anymore. So think of all the industry we lost. Think of the population that we lost. Think of the income that we lost.
Because a lot of those industries would help fund.
Yeah. Exactly.
A lot of
so money's here because we're on an upswing, in the coal era. So that's why I would say the state's job is to be the mitigating factor to make sure that everybody has what they need if they can't support themselves. And I don't know what that perfect blend is because I'm not an economist, but the I guess the implied part of it is why can't Scranton do more with what it can provide itself? And that's a great question, and I have a plan for that. So. so the city does not work well with others.
Why?
That's another
why is the three largest governing bodies i.e. the county, the city, and the school district, why isn't there like a monthly or quarterly meeting
that we do every so often, but it's
about
it's
like
rare.
safety and what you're seeing in the community and what we're looking at on how to correct things or be prepared for, or like, because it seems like there is zero communication.
So it's really funny. The city got a grant to study gang violence, and
You mean the Muflahun thing?
I don't know what that is.
Muflahun. That was the thing that they were doing the study on
Terrorist organizations, that one?
Well, that was the thing.
So no, not that.
Okay. Keep going.
So I'm going to Noam Chomsky this because there's a lot of connections here. So you're going to have to bear with me.
I'll bear with you
a little bit. So this study just interviewed me, and they asked me why I thought there was gang violence and what we can do to address it. And one of the things we brought up is what I brought up to this woman who interviewed me. Said it was what you said about why aren't we working together? And I think it's a leadership issue. And I'm not saying that the people in each entity is not a leader, but you cannot have too many cooks in the kitchen. It's like a classroom. So are my students in a classroom civilly equal to me? Absolutely. But if I don't lead the discussion, it's going to be a nightmare. And so it's funny you talk about safety. So Brian Gallagher, he gets everybody in a room, and
I love him.
He's great. And he runs the show. So guess what? We have really good concrete interactions with the city on safety, with the city, the county, state police, attorney general's office, and Brian, but
that's a new dynamic.
It's because he's the leader that can do that.
Yeah.
So that's not quite the case with the current governmental structures. You look at the city, it's its own fiefdom, and I don't know. The reason I brought it up is because part of my plan to address the issue of how can we help sustain ourselves better. The mayor 2 years ago, without really engaging the district, which is a bigger taxing body than this county and city combined, hired a law firm to check nonprofit status of various entities that are off the tax rolls. Nothing has happened that I can tell. She should have consulted the district. And what I would like to do is get the district involved, because I'm going to tell you something there's low hanging fruit here. We do not need to survey everything all at once and do a big court filing and sue everybody. You can do it incrementally over time. I'll give you the perfect place to start. There's a Chick-fil-A at the University of Scranton that has no connection to the nonprofit mission of that place. That square footage for just the Chick-fil-A, which they make rent from, and Chick-fil-A makes profit from, needs to be on the tax rolls. So
That's a good idea.
yeah. And it's low hanging fruit. It's like, boom, that we're decertifying your nonprofit status for this amount of square feet because this has nothing to do with your mission.
That's an interesting idea.
You're welcome.
We all might be welcome if anybody has the balls to go through with it.
Yeah. Oh, and actually, I'm going to give you the test case, because the test case is from like 15 years ago. St. Mary's Center, where the Byzantine Catholic Church, not too far from here, they're off the tax rolls because they have nothing to do with the church. It's the church's mission. It's a hall that they rent out for profit. The Lebanese church owns a property and rents it out for extra income. They pay taxes on that property. So, because here's the thing, the logic of the University of Scranton, and do they make an economic contribution? Absolutely. But you know what? Collectively, the city of Scranton and every resident also does. So you can't just say, I make an economic contribution, I get all these benefits. Everybody makes an economic contribution. I just bought some beer at Cooper's.
We should be rolling in the dough for General Dynamics.
Yeah. They have exemptions.
Isn't it weird?
Yeah. They're different.
Isn't it weird?
They're federal exemptions. Yes, it's weird. So what I want to do is I want to take a look at all of these entities and say, okay, and again, low hanging fruit. And honestly, let's get a tip jar, like a tip form, and be like, hey, is there some sort of nonprofit that is not doing nonprofit stuff and you think they should be paying taxes? The residence halls, renting college space, they make money on the kids who are renting space there. That has nothing to do with the educational mission. The parking lots where they charge for parking, nothing to do with the educational mission. There's a Starbucks there, nothing to do with the educational mission. Boom. So, hey, do I have any problem with them not paying taxes, where they're teaching classes or engaging in enrichment? That's fine.
Yeah.
But
having basketball games or.
Yeah. Related to the, sporting, whatever.
Yeah.
That's fine. But think about the inverse of the university's argument for tax exemption. Well, it supports the larger mission. Well, then buy the whole freaking city. Buy my house.
Yeah.
And I'll pay you rent because owning that helps you with your educational mission. But now I don't have to pay taxes.
We looked into some of that stuff. What was shocking to me was that 40% of the nonprofits in Lackawanna County are in Scranton.
Oh God, yeah. And I think the percentage of
and that includes the University of Scranton as one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is an immense amount of non-taxable property in the city's government. I think there's 17 schools in the Scranton School District. None of them are paying taxes.
Yeah, but they're not 17 different nonprofits.
No, I got that.
You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
40% of all the registered nonprofits in Lackawanna County are in Scranton.
Yeah, and so between nonprofits and government institutions, you lose that much in tax revenue. And guess who pays for it? Us. That's why I said earlier that the state should be the mitigating factor, because we can't help that the federal courthouse is
Doesn't what happens is a lot of people are like, well, I'm just going to start a nonprofit and I'm just not going to pay taxes.
Yes. So I'm
going to kind of relate this to the homeless situation that I'm not as intimately involved in as a couple other people, but I have more knowledge than most. If you notice where they all, and this is not like a denigration of human beings. I've met a lot of these homeless people. Some of them are very, very smart. Some of them are very kind. Most of them have some sort of traumatic experience in their life that has led them down a road.
Nobody wants to be there.
Yeah, probably like 10% of them are like, man, I just don't want the government telling me what to do, and I just kind of like living off the land. And most of them, and that cohort is very respectful, and they kind of hide out. But a lot of them seem to congregate in a certain area, which is located for my comfort, very close to the Scranton High School.
This has been an ongoing problem for us, and the city will not
cooperate. But what's around there that makes them congregate there? Has anyone ever paid attention to this? Because
Redners? I just assume.
So there's the Keystone Mission.
Okay.
Right? There's CIC. And did you know that in the back of Geisinger is the outpatient methadone clinic?
I did not.
Yeah. Is that allowed that close to a school?
Evidently.
So if you drive, you know what I'm talking about, 3 West Olive, you go behind
I didn't know that.
Geisinger, and you just look to your left, you will say outpatient drug treatment. So they're all going there to get their hit. And I don't know if anybody informed the school district or anybody was, because I looked it up, and it's like legally, you can't be that close to a school district or a school at all. So you have the baseball fields there, and then across the street you have.
I didn't know that. That's good to know because.
Yeah, you see everybody doing the Kensington Shuffle on the trail.
I know. And the thing is, like, we have runners, and sometimes we can't have those runners be on the trail because they get harassed by the homeless population.
Yeah, we paid a lot of money for that trail.
You know what? And Greg Popel, who you know, he is the chair of the board of the Lackawanna River.
Is it LHVA or is it
Heritage Valley Authority? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And he's tried to do something about it, but he can't because it requires the cooperation of the city, which they are not currently interested in.
Why would the city not cooperate?
I mean, so
with trying to reduce human suffering.
I think so. It's this. You just said, why the city went out and did this whole, we're going to go after the nonprofits, and did nothing for 2 years. Didn't include us. It's a fiefdom. It's they have their little kingdoms, and they want to protect them.
So when you say kingdoms, I hear monarchy.
Yeah. Paige is not a monarch, but she is image conscious. I don't know if that's obvious to literally everybody, but
they're behaving in a way that is not. I don't even know if the word democratic, but like the will of the people. Like you have a responsibility to make sure that like these, especially like just the homeless population. Like, okay, so like if my value statement was we should have this there right next to children, something's wrong.
Yeah. So, and they're not going to see it that way. That goes back to your earlier point about, do they know or not know that they're deceiving people? I think people tend to convince themselves of the position that is advantageous to their wants and needs. And then that way they're not lying to themselves or other people in their minds. So I'll give you a good example of this. There's like what I would call, and you're probably one of the more fun people to talk to about this, because
MAGA.
No, not that.
Matter.
But actually, so there's like a democratic orthodoxy. So like I'm a proud Democrat, but I don't fit a particular mold.
Do you have a flag?
I don't.
No one got that?
Like
No,
an American flag?
No. Well, the Pride people have flags. I was just wondering if you had a flag. You're proud.
I don't have a pride flag.
It was a terrible joke. Keep going.
was
You're
not.
a proud Democrat. I'm going to let you continue.
So I'm a proud Democrat for a lot of reasons. It has to deal with like, you know, my social values, like my pro-working class values,
Yeah.
the history of the party in relation to that. Now, is the party what it was? Nope. But neither is the Republican Party. No party can fit what anyone needs, period.
Sure.
But there's a democratic orthodoxy. And, you know, if there's elements of the party where if you don't agree 100% with the orthodoxy, you're an asshole. And I would say that there are a couple people in local politics who subscribe to the what I would call that orthodoxy.
I think it's a minority orthodoxy.
Yeah, agreed. Because average people are not like this. But I would say that part of that, their thought process is it's cruel to remove homeless camps. They would say that. But then they're going to say, well, but we don't have enough money to give them the appropriate care. So we're just not going to do anything because doing something without what we need is cruel. But the problem is, you know, how many times a year it's getting warm. I'm going to start getting complaints about homeless people harassing or potentially assaulting or abusing Scranton School District kids. So my priority is going to be to raise hell about that. I mean, at one point, I think it was maybe about 2 years ago, Sean McAndrew, who is running for city council and is on the school board now, great to work with. He and great person. He went to city council to complain about this very thing, but it's still happening. So now
how many complaints do you receive like through the warmer months?
Okay, so the word "you," do you mean district or me? Because the district definitely receives more than I get because everything's a filter. I don't always hear things.
Well, more people know about the Scranton School District than Tom Borthwick. So obviously they're going to get more complaints.
No, I meant like, so like the admin in the district, they're going to know more. The track coach, you know, who has the kids running on the trail, he's going to know more. She's going to know more. So I can't give you a definitive number, but I wouldn't doubt there are dozens of incidents, like honestly, like per week. Like
Per week?
Yeah. And I'm not saying they're like violent, but it's like someone's like, you know,
Still, it's a child walking past somebody that's out there.
yeah, like, oh, well, I mean,
But your responsibility, like your
like people taking a leak in the middle of the road. I think,
I filmed it.
yeah, like, but that's happened lots. You just happened to be there to catch it. So think about how many times you weren't there.
So when you say that I look at it as cruelty wrapped in empathy.
Oof, man.
So,
What a phrase.
and when I say that, it's, you know, oh, this is the right thing. We can't.
Or is
hurt
it empathy wrapped in cruelty?
It's the same thing. It's race car.
Is it sympathy or is
What's the name of that?
Taco Cat.
No. Yes. What's that called?
And
It's a word spelled forward and backwards the same.
come on, English teacher.
palindrome?
Palindrome.
I
It's an emotional palindrome.
I really like that. That's a really good descriptor of that whole orthodoxy that I was talking
Well, because I've noticed that like that subset of the Democratic Party claims to be incredibly empathetic, incredibly understanding, and I've found that like the results of their actions have led to worse outcomes.
Yeah, I could see that, and it also is really, I would say, off-putting for the brand, and the brand makes it sound like I'm cheapening what we're talking about. But you know, if you
say you're for this thing, like if I think we should fill the pool with water, and then you come and it's filled with dirt. Like that's how basic I look at it, where it's like you have made this worse.
dirt can absorb water, Mark.
Yeah, but you can't swim in it.
Pigs do.
They frolic in it.
See, we found a counter.
Yeah, see, we help something.
So, but that's like my biggest. Like, I don't even think I'm I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me.
We got to be clear. Both parties left everyone except, the oligarchs.
And the crazy thing is like to not. I'll give you an example on the homeless, because the homeless is an interesting. It's an interesting study on results. At what point in the process, like I don't think anybody should suffer. Right. And if we can do anything, we waste a lot of money on stupid shit. And if if a couple dollars get pointed towards, let's not let people suffer, maybe I'm okay with that.
That sounds lovely.
At what point in the process of your someone who's going through the process of trying to get a home, let's say who's homeless, what point in that process do you think they spend, like what step in do you think they focus on mental health?
I mean,
and this, you're probably not going to know the answer to this, but I'm asking you, like, pragmatically, at what stage should you focus on mental health?
Okay, so and I'll tell you why I'm going to say stage 2, because stage 1 should be addressing poverty, because that I think is the number.
Yeah, but you're mentally ill. So like when I said to you earlier, like,
if you're mentally ill, then it should be step 1.
So, okay. So like most of these people that are homeless that I've talked to, every one of their stories is some sort of trauma. Like there's something back there that like, instead of choosing to and it's horrible. When horrible things happen to people, it's horrible. But unfortunately in life, like you have to make the choice of like, what did I learn from this, or how does this define me? And they became the thing that happened to them, which is now the definition of them, right? So like there were people that we talked to that were in like terrible house fires, and they lost like a loved one in the house fire, and that was the trauma that they experienced that they never got over. A lot of assaults, a lot of abuse. And you and I know as well as I'm probably some other people listening, that we know people who have been through things that like you and I would be like, if that I would have taken a bullet in the mouth, just how terrible that was. And they got through that. And it's like, you look at those people and you're like, God bless them for going through that and being like good people after experiencing something terrible, which isn't in the outside of the realm of thinking, because like we just did the podcast with Ushu. I don't know if you saw that one. He's my buddy from the Congo.
So I've been watching your TikTok clips. That's a great idea.
So Ushu watched his entire family get murdered in his village, which if you don't understand, villages in Africa could have 45,000 people or 60,000 people in it, which is the size of the city of Scranton.
Jeez.
Watched his whole family get murdered. Then he spends 12 years in a refugee camp, which is the size of Lackawanna County with over 1 million people, right? That guy goes through all that. And then he comes here and he's grateful, but he has his criticisms. But he's a happy-go-lucky guy. He smiles. He saw terrible shit. And I ask him, like, how do you go through that? And he goes, what choice do I have?
Yeah.
It's not going to define me. I get to make a choice. A lot of these people in America,
not everybody has that ability.
If somebody doesn't open the door for a certain person, all of a sudden they're racist. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing that they will carry. You know what it's like when you hear people have these complaints and they focus on it for like the rest of the week, where it's like, somebody didn't open the door for me. Fuck them forever. Yep. And it's like, maybe somebody didn't open the door for you. Yeah. Move the fuck on. So when it comes to like the homeless thing, sorry about the tangent.
No.
The mental health issue is like step 6. They try to get you housing before that'll
never work. That doesn't make any sense.
That's what I said. I'm like, wait. Why are we not checking it? Because obviously they're homeless because they can't handle a living situation.
That requires an immense amount of responsibility. You've got to be put together. So let's put them together and then get them the responsibility, not the other way around. But actually, that has to be another form of trauma.
Correct.
Like walking in there like, oh, great, I've got rent, I've got utility bills, I've got to maintain this fridge, I've got neighbors, I've got grass. That's almost, you're just dumping an entire existence on them that they completely avoided
for years.
Oh God! And who does this? Well, who came up with this?
It's a problem. It's been the California now I knew about this like a year and a half ago, but California last year spent $25 billion to curb homelessness.
I believe it didn't work.
Not only that, homelessness went up, and they can't account for the money. So I look at things. My buddy has this saying. He goes, everything's a fractal problem, right? So you look at the big national stuff, and the lower down you go, it's still a fractal problem. So I look at the world as the players, the positions. You can find basically a Mad Lib for that locally, right? So when you look at things like nonprofits and whatever, and if you look at states giving money to these problems, they're never going to cure the homelessness in California because too many jobs and nonprofits depend on it to be there.
That one's above my pay grade.
But think about it. It's like that.
Yeah,
it's like cancer, right? They're never going to cure cancer because every oncologist tomorrow is going to go out of a job. Every fucking primary care physician, they're going to diminish because they've cured cancer.
You know, in general, incentive. Well, like there's a vaccine for Lyme disease. You can't get it.
Well, Lyme's was started by the government. I
don't know about that, but
I'm telling you, look into it.
Whether it is or not, there was a vaccine. It's not produced because it's not economically feasible. So that's dumb. That's what it is. Like if it's about money, everything's money.
I think so. That's the ultimate thing. So if you make everybody sick, you're always going to need medicine. Like I look at
microplastics. We were just talking about that.
I look at a lot of these situations as avoidable, but sometimes I think they're orchestrated.
I mean,
I think they're made or maneuvered in a way to be more beneficial.
So we're talking more globally now.
Here, California spent $24 billion to tackle homelessness over the past 5 years, but didn't consistently track whether the huge outlay of public money actually improved the situation, according to state audit released Tuesday.
Yeah, see, so that's the kind of stuff that I worry about in terms of government all the time. So microcosmically speaking, I don't worry about that as much with the Scranton School District because we've dealt with, you talk about trauma responses. Some of the poor administrators are still traumatized over, being thrown into recovery, being some of the people like years ago, people being arrested, so everybody's got the AG's office coming in and taking all the documentation.
Didn't all that end up being like nonsense anyways?
Yeah. It was a nice headline before an election, but,
see, I think something was behind that. Usually when things like that happen,
headline before an election.
Yeah. Weird. Very strange.
No, well, just like, all the great paving projects that are being announced and the pool projects, and like, come on.
Or the pool projects being dug up.
Yeah. Jeez. So that's just kind of par for the course. And you were talking about, we began this talking about like homelessness and addressing a problem between the city and the school district.
My ultimate thing is I think there's an incentivization to make it continue.
Yeah. And so I, as a school director, don't want that to be a thing. And, I could probably confidently say that Sean McAndrew, who will hopefully win his council race, is in the same position. So now he'll be able to advocate on the city side because the city isn't always a great partner. I mean, we get grants and we do things, and then the mayor shows up to the press conferences and then like films herself with a kid and then leaves. It's photo op stuff. But
that's like going to like a birthday party, not bringing a present and making sure that you're in the pictures holding someone else's present.
Yeah, we could be better partners. And
do you see? Like, yeah. Am I being hyperbolic on that?
No, not at all.
And no one sees that as like, hey, that's pretty fucked up.
I've refrained, from being publicly critical because I'm a developer.
I haven't been publicly critical.
Yeah, so like it's a genuine worry. Because City Hall can make my life a living hell if they want. But
that's retaliation.
It would be.
It's illegal.
Which is why saying it is probably better protection. But I would say, like, as a developer,
I like the way he thinks.
Oh, yeah.
And in public forum. It's sad that you have to think that way, actually. But, as a developer, I've never even, the mayor hasn't said anything to me about buying 3 buildings, one of which was condemned and dilapidated, and revitalizing it. Like 3 buildings that are a block from where she works every day. And
I mean, but you didn't do that to get that acclaim or that recognition.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no.
So I'll tell you why I bring it up. I'm going to talk about Mayor Lombardo of Pittston. He calls developers from Scranton and says, listen.
He's doing a great job down there.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
So he's called developers and said, hey, listen, there's this building. It's a picture. His office is covered in pictures of dilapidated buildings. You buy this building, I'm waiving all your permits. You buy this building and you put high-end apartments in it and commercial space on the first floor, I'm paying 50% of your engineering and architectural fees. And I have a grant, brand new windows, whole building on us. Great idea. So now Pittston is bopping because he's been doing exactly that for years. That is the kind of innovative thing that a mayor should do.
I mean, is it innovative or is it pragmatic?
Excuse me. Pragmatic.
Yeah.
But seems innovative because we don't do it.
Because we don't do that. Hey, what do you mean you put round wheels on your bike? That's crazy.
I have square. Square better.
So I don't need her to give me accolades. I don't give a shit about that. But like maybe say like, hey, what are some things that we could do to help? Look at the city going after Basiliga because the lights they approved them were too bright. But wait, Mr. City. Like you,
Mrs. City.
Well, I was just embodying Scranton in a male way. I guess that was
Madam
terrible.
City.
Whatever the hell.
What do we?
His or her city.
They, them city.
Mr. Mrs. City.
Someday.
Ms. I don't freaking know. Whatever.
Did you say someday?
Scranton.
We're working our way to they, them city. Yeah.
So Scranton, why not like say that, lights are bright lights in a downtown at night are great because it deters crime.
Yeah.
And the city approved it. And then they're going to slap fines and tell them take it down. The amount of money,
How does that happen?
the amount of money that Basiliga, Jefferson, Russo, and I'm a
bunch of
small
other
fish.
ones.
There's Mamano, the Donahue brothers. There's so many of them. We should be talking. The mayor should be talking to us. And I say us because I'm a minor one, but I'm on the square and I'm a small fry compared to these guys. But there needs to be dialogue, not like fighting. And it's not even fighting; it's sniping. Because I'm going to send the zoning guy to hit you with a fine because your lights are too bright in a city. So that's bad, and that's the kind of thing where there doesn't just and so I was talking about the developer side, the school district side. The city's not a good partner, or we would have tackled the homelessness issue.
Or the gang issue.
But this is why Brian Gallagher is a phenomenal DA because he's working hard on the gang issue.
I agree with you. I think Brian Gallagher might be one of the best things that's happened to the
Honest to
county
God,
in a very long time.
He's a great man.
But why wasn't it done before? It seems like the right thing to do. It seems like the way to make sure that kids. One of the reasons that I ran is because I actually saw the footage of Tyler McKenna getting murdered. And I was like, and my first reaction was, everyone should see this and nobody should see this.
And it's a tragedy.
Did you see it?
I saw the far away footage.
I saw the security footage.
Yeah.
So
what I saw was far away. I
like
as a dad, I can't
in
even
that
watch
in that
stuff.
in like, I'm sure law enforcement saw that.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm sure that it was appalling to them.
I'll give you an apocryphal story.
Somewhere along the lines, somebody forgot about that image.
So no,
Like that kid should have never died.
I'll give you an apocryphal story. It's one of those ones that like, it's around. I know it's true. So there was an opportunity.
Before we do this, I'm going to drink an eighth of a shot of Alex Jones conspiracy bourbon. And you're going to cheers me on it. This isn't me falling off the wagon. This is just me getting through this story.
It's sad. This is what drinking is for.
See, I'm Irish. That's why we always drank. It's because we were always sad. Like my sister was telling you before.
You're also German, so there's other stuff going on.
Yeah. I want to rule the world, but I'm too drunk to do it.
Another Kaiser von Dutch
Dennebaum?
Whitey.
Yeah. Okay. Apocryphal.
So there was a grant opportunity, fully paid for, that would have it was a gang violence prevention grant a couple of years back that would have
This grant was going to be awarded to who?
it could have been awarded to Scranton.
The school district or the city?
A city.
Okay.
And it would have interfaced with the police department to provide like triangulation of gunshots so that they could more quickly respond.
Is that sound system?
Yeah.
Chicago had it, and then the mayor took it down.
Yeah. So,
I heard it was very effective.
So like, think about this. If there's a drive, well,
There was two shootings last week.
Well, God love Detective Gilmartin. So they were chasing somebody who was driving around the city shooting.
Live streaming it on Instagram.
Yeah. And they used the Instagram stuff to find this guy. But imagine if we were able to triangulate location by gunshots, instantaneously beam to the cops.
Mm-hmm.
We could have had a faster response time. This was before a lot of the gang violence stuff in Scranton became in the forefront. And
Which started right after COVID, all the gang stuff.
so this would have been maybe right before then. No, maybe it was right after. I don't remember the timeline. It would have been after because of a couple people in a couple positions. This is how I know the story. She declined the grant, even though it was free money. She declined it because she did not want to have to because it was a gang violence prevention. She did not want to have to publicly admit that there was gangs in Scranton. And the only reason that anyone would ever say that is because she would look bad. So rather than take
So let me get this straight.
rather than take that money and help this city in return for admitting we have a problem, it's like, nope, let's look good.
So what you're saying is that optics were chosen over public safety.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, if there's a running theme of this particular episode, it's that people delude themselves into doing things that are detrimental to the greater population. And maybe these people who make these decisions do believe that it is the right decision. Because you can make a calculation and say, you know what, I'm not going to take this because I don't want to take the public relations hit because I can do more good in this position.
Mm-hmm.
And people do make those logical leaps all the time. I'm in politics. I see it. And then you start to convince yourself that this is the way to behave. And then we're all lost. And that's one of the reasons why, like I said, we've got a running theme here. That's why I said, maybe I need to speak more than I do. Because I was strategically not speaking because I can go get done what I want to get done. Because I don't actually need your recognition. I don't need my neighbor's recognition. I'll go do the right thing and I don't need the pat on the back. But then the people who fuck around and cause problems, who want the recognition, they go get it. And then the truth gets
Muddled.
Yeah, it gets moved. Actually, I'll give you my favorite example from yesterday's meeting about the biggest bunch of shit that was stated. Oh my God. So
That whole growler's gone, by the way, Dan.
it's not. No, I've got a good. No, I would.
It will be. We're getting.
I would have said this growler or not. I'm having fun.
Yeah.
So
He's the only guy I know that has fun pissing people off.
well, it's because they need to be called out. And I
No, you know what? Here, before you get onto this, I want you to know that like you and I, and maybe I want everybody to know is like you and I probably have a lot of stuff that we disagree on, right? But I truly and genuinely love you, and part of the reason why I love you is because of I know where you stand. You've thought it through, and you're not trying to bullshit me. Like I like your honesty, and I love the fact that also at the same time, when it comes to what you believe is the right thing, you're fearless about pursuing it.
I appreciate that. Just a quick story. So there was an issue that I had to deal with.
Tom also doesn't like compliments.
No, I don't. I actually hate them.
Yeah.
I'm suspicious.
I'm also awful at taking them.
Yeah, I'm suspicious. But thank you for the compliment. What do the girls do these days? This?
I don't know. They should all stop doing that.
I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it.
But I see them do it. Maybe when they get a compliment.
Is it a
I don't
photo?
know. I don't know. It's
They
a
do
Taylor
it for their
it's a-
photos?
I think it's a Taylor Swift thing. I don't
She's
know.
not
Oh,
a good
jeez.
person.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
I'm.
All right.
I like other music.
Tell last night. Yeah.
So as a preface to your compliment or post-it note.
Yeah.
God damn it. There's a word I'm looking for. I can't find. My wife and I were dealing with something earlier and she was having a conversation with someone and it's like, I heard your husband said this. And she just goes, you know him. If he thought that, you would know he thought that. And she's like, oh yeah, you're right. So that problem got solved pretty quickly because everybody knows where I stand at all times.
That's why I respect. Not only do I love you, but I people I respect, I love. if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
it's
like
reasonable.
I no homo. I love you tremendously.
I love you too. It's very platonic.
So what was the thing last night?
So, all right. So there was a bunch of disinformation from Director Yanni.
Wait, liberals can make disinformation?
I don't know if she's liberal or I don't know what she is. She's a squiggly line. So
She looks like one of the stones from Fifth Element. Is she Earth?
yeah, I don't think so. So at the previous meeting, she makes this at the work session. She makes this statement that, you know, the one firm was charging X and the other firm is charging Y. And it's like, no, there's actual direct evidence that you're wrong and lying. And I said, I just want to make sure the public is aware that what she's saying is untrue. So she lied. Deceived though, because she's going to say I'm not lying because they had an initial proposal and then they had a supplement. But the thing is, the supplement is the final proposal. So she wasn't lying. This is what I mean by people deceiving themselves. It's I didn't lie to the public. That is what they submitted. Yes,
Well, but they find like a word salady way to fucking say it, and then it's like,
so-
I wasn't being distrue,
so
and then
she-
you don't know what's true.
So she does that. And then at the meeting yesterday or on Thursday, she goes, well, I just want to say that because of my constant advocacy for Scranton taxpayers or some variation of that statement, we were able to save tons of money by getting them to lower their initial rates. If you watch the video, you'll see me start laughing. That's the biggest bunch of shit. She didn't do anything. She didn't do anything to negotiate, to change negotiations, to affect negotiations, except to maybe affect them negatively. I'm going to tell you, and this hasn't come out yet.
Oh, breaking news! Breaking news, Dan.
It's going to sound esoteric, so I apologize. But
Change back.
They demanded a retainer, so Joyce Carmody Moran, who the solicitor we awarded the contract to, wanted to go full hourly, no retainer. We're going to lose money because Yanni and Fox demanded that we match the retainer of the current people, and Joyce Carmody was saying, like, you'll lose money if you pay us a baseline and an hourly rate. And they didn't get that. And so
Like they didn't understand that?
no, they didn't. So because of that, we're actually going to spend more money and I've been saving this. I was going to use it as a weapon at a board meeting, but
You still can.
I will.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I'm going to. It's just, you get a preview. But I mean,
This is a good like practice run.
they negotiated against it. So their influence on the process was to get a worse deal. Like these
And increase the third party
oh my
lawyer.
God. So I'll give you this one's fun. So this morning or the morning after this happened, they immediately began sending emails and complaining about the process and blah, blah, blah. What's over? Grow up. But they're not going to grow up because
This is all publicly available.
If
you need it to be.
If you, yes, you can RTK it. I'm not, thank you for trying to protect me.
Yes. You're welcome.
You don't have to. I don't give a shit. I'll ride whatever.
I know,
storm.
I know, but I want to protect you.
I thank you. So
Because I love you.
see, they're like, so Danielle Cheswick, who's a great researcher on the board. She's phenomenal. She's running for office. I love supporting her. She's great to work with. Points out that, so Yanni was complaining that because we had a special meeting, it's $1,500 to have a special meeting, and therefore we're wasting taxpayer money. Aside from the fact that 83% of all phone calls were from her from last month, and that she cost us thousands of dollars with her repetitive questions. She just remixed every question a million times until she never got the answer she wanted, but she tried to get it and failed. But so Danielle says, if we keep our special counsel, that's $500 a day, because Yanni wanted to vote on April 28th, with the next scheduled meeting. And Danielle's like, well, okay. Yeah, this meeting costs $1,500. So actually we're saving thousands, because basically the implication is you're sending so many damn emails and making so many phone calls that we are being charged $500 a day for your bullshit. And Danielle called her out.
I think she said it was going to be $9,500.
It would have been $9,500 if we waited, because of the.
And you're already at 20, aren't you?
I don't know what the total amount is because we didn't get April yet.
Yeah, but for March it is, isn't it?
No, March is like 9 or 10.
So without having April's, it would have doubled.
April's actually probably
Worse.
even though we're only halfway through April, I guess they really turned up the volume. His contract is supposed to be done and they're still sending him questions. Like,
Really?
yeah. So how about they're questioning where Danielle got her information? She got it from the solicitor we hired, like the special counsel we hired, I should say. So like, go Danielle. She researched it.
Where'd you get your information? I asked him.
Yeah. I asked the authority who is actually saying like, yes, I'm currently charging you $500 an hour because everybody's asking me questions. And he actually is like apologizing. Like, I'm sorry, this is very atypical. Like he's an attorney who's got to protect his reputation. Like, cause I would send out emails saying like, I did send an email to the group saying like, who is the director that's using him like this as the district as their own personal piggy bank? And it was Yanni. That's why she got mad that it wasn't redacted, because I found out that it was her, because it could have been Fox or potentially Gil Martin. Although what Gil Martin did, she made cats watch hours of YouTube videos from 2018. That's in the bill.
Wait, she made the lawyer watch YouTube videos?
Oh yeah. Sean McAndrew mentioned it. I'm just telling you who did it because I don't care.
Well, she's not on the board now.
No, but she was for some of the period of this process.
Has there anything been publicly disclosed about her leaving?
No,
Was it just like I'm out?
We just got a letter that just said, I'm resigning. Good luck.
And there's nothing that anybody knows about, or is it?
I would imagine
like the ethos.
No, I would imagine that people know, because there's got to be knowledge. I don't know what that knowledge is.
Is there any public information about it?
I mean,
I've heard speculation and conjecture.
I can speak to. I don't know what I can speak to. Talk to me about your conjecture, and I'll say what I can say.
The speculation and conjecture is that she was on she did work for a nonprofit called PSBA.
That is public knowledge.
PSBA, their mission is she was an ambassador.
I believe that's the name of the program.
So, and now correct me if I'm wrong, these ambassadors are basically distributed throughout the state.
I don't know too much about the program, but there are, to my knowledge, a bunch of them.
There's multiple ambassadors. There's also a caveat for the ambassadors to not be ambassadoring if you are on a school board at your.
So I don't know that, but I would imagine that you shouldn't.
Okay. Now I watched a school board meeting back in August, and I don't know if Casey meant to do this. I don't know if he accidentally did it, but anyways, it happened. They were breaking his chops about
as usual,
as receiving money from something or whatever, and he brings up PSBA, and he goes, do you get paid for PSBA? She goes, no. And I was listening and going, I was like, oh, okay. And then she goes, I get a stipend.
Yeah.
And then I
remember.
In my head, I went, well, how much is that? And then Bob went, well, how much is that? And she said, I believe it was $2,500 a month is what I remember from watching the school board meeting.
That is what she said.
And I immediately thought, that's not a stipend. That's a salary. For those who don't understand, what PSBA does is they try to implement policy in school districts. This is what you should follow. This is what we recommend. These are the things, which I think that an outside organization should not be manipulating a school district. I think the school district should know what the right things are. If you want to hear from other people, you can hear those opinions or not. But whether or not PSBA approves or disapproves of what you're doing should have no bearing on the body elect.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, because I can speak to my feelings about PSBA outside of whatever happened with Director Gil Martin. I believe our district is what I would call over-policied. So we have like if you look left or right, there's a policy that governs it. It's beyond ridiculous. And I've talked to Director Casey about ways we can do this, because he's old school and he knows the old rules.
He is old school.
He knows all the rules. Yeah. Because he probably wrote them. He's old enough. But
he was the first man on the school board.
He really, honestly, it feels like it sometimes. So I think this over policing, like what they do, and they do it to this day, and I wish they would stop, or we could just quit. They send hey, you need to implement this policy. And then we just vote on it and we do it. Or, hey, you need to edit this policy and here are our edits. And then we just do it. And I think that was put in, I know it's, yeah, you're right to look like what the hell.
Yeah.
I think it was put in, or that style of doing things was put in under her era of leadership. And I'm not fond of just letting somebody else.
Do you know
write our policies.
she's my best argument against mail-in voting?
Oh, yeah. That's funny because you were there for all that happening.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, I'm against mail-in voting, and whatever conspiracies in your brain, my reason for it, one of my reasons against mail-in voting is because if there was no mail-in voting, what transpired between the moment people voted for her and actual election day would have been grounds for people to not vote for her.
Yeah, and
that had to do with Mayor Connors.
Yep, she abused Mayor Connors. We had the strike. We had
but that all happened after people started voting on the mail-in.
Yeah. You know, I get that, and I love voting in person.
I do too.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm doing something.
Yeah, I tend to lean toward the understanding of things like absentee voting because if you're
but that existed before mail-in voting. Absentee voting was there.
Yeah, the difference is the no excuse current thing. I love being at a poll on election day, seeing the neighbors.
Yeah, it's great.
Bringing donuts and coffee to the workers. But yeah, it was funny because I looked at the totals of my election when I made it on the Republican side once. It was me versus her because I think she only made it.
If there was no mail-in, you would have been on school board that year.
I beat her at her home poll on election day. And it was because of, man, what she did to Mayor Connors is that's a travesty. I was thinking that's probably why she's not running. But then,
what did she do to Mayor Connors for people that don't know?
I apologize. You know what? I got to think better.
She egged his house.
No. She egged his house. It was terrible. He was
it was a public comment period.
Yeah. He was advocating, for his passions. And, my guess is it was like preschool elimination or helping the unions cause that's what he would come and speak about. Or saving bankrupt. Like it was one of those three, cause that's what he always came to do, to advocate for the community. And I miss him. And he just says, I only have one more sentence. She says, time's up. Thank you, Mr. Connors. And he says, I only have one more sentence. Can I speak again? She starts gaveling him and screaming at him to get off. And he's like, man,
if I'm not mistaken, the whole crowd turned against her in that
immediately.
moment too. Yeah.
He's like the dean of Scranton. God rest his soul. But he loved the district. That he was the title administrator who ran the preschool program. This was near and dear to his heart. He got his start in community organizing. He was like, I'm going to organize Manuka so that we can get these ball fields here. It was to save the school that was where the ball fields are now. That's what it was. And he started that, and then that started his political career. And just a kind, generous, outgoing, thoughtful man. Funny as hell, but always used all of his traits to help causes in the district. And when she did that, people were just disgusted, rightfully.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
It was icky.
But you're right. It happened in between the beginning of mail-ins, and most of the initial mail-ins come the day, people just send them out the day they get them.
Yep.
And so you're right. The closer to election day you get, the more informed decision you can make. And that is a good argument. So I appreciate your argument.
I was trying to use all the other arguments, and then one day I was sitting there and I was like, that's the argument, because you could vote for somebody that you shouldn't vote for, that can screw something up.
Yeah, and if I voted mail-in that year and then I saw that, I'm like, oh shit, I can't unbake that cake.
Yeah, your vote's cast. You're done.
Yep.
Okay. Let me talk to you about I have a couple of things here. Teachers. Let's talk about teachers.
I like them.
I like teachers too. My mother was a teacher. I think I'm for getting rid of the Department of Education.
I'm more for reform. What do you want?
You just send the money back to the states.
So here's the thing.
And I wouldn't have this opinion if I didn't hear Randy Weingarten in September of 2024 say, we existed before the Department of Education. Will exist afterwards. We don't even really care.
Yeah, that is silly of her if she said that. I'm sure she did. But so you know how earlier I was saying like the state is a mitigating factor?
Mm-hmm.
I think the federal government is also that. And so do I agree with everything that any government does? No, or politician for that matter. But through the Department of Ed, Scranton gets what are called title funds. Like this is how our kids because according to Department of Ed metrics, we're so poor. Every single one of our kids gets a free breakfast and a free lunch. And I don't want that to go away.
I don't want that to go away either.
So the abolishment right now,
but it's the Department of Education, not the Department of Cafeteria Food.
But it's honestly, if you ever asked a teacher, who, especially experienced ones, before these kinds of programs, what's the number one impediment to a good education? It's hunger. Yeah. If you're hungry, you're not learning. And so you can see the data. If you start feeding,
I agree that these are a problem.
No. So
I was basically trying to say like, why aren't we feeding our kids?
So I went back. It's poverty. I mean, you've got families who can't afford to do it. So schools often step in and play familial roles. And if we lived in a utopian society, every family would be wonderful. But
I don't want a utopia.
Well, I mean, because who defines it? But what I meant was, if we lived in a society where a family takes care of their kid without fail, then the kid's never going to come to school hungry, always going to have lunch, always going to have dinner. That's just not society anywhere probably in the world. So mitigating factor. We have a government who can say, all right, these parents are going to take care of their kids. They're not going to feed their kids. Let's help out. Because there's nobody that's going to say, we want starving kids. Except derelict parents, I guess. Or and actually, you know what? It's not just derelict parents. Some parents just can't afford it. Or everyone's hungry in the house.
That's insane that we live in America and people can't afford food.
Eggs are the highest they've ever been now.
Not anymore.
No.
They're way down, bro.
So because I'm on the wholesale side, they're going like this right again. So you go like next week and get back to me.
I go to farms, so all my eggs are
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. If you're buying like from bigger distributors, if you go to a farm, you're good.
Yeah. Well,
we actually called a farm to save some money.
We should bring that back.
We're in a unique place in Scranton, Pennsylvania, because there are so many farms.
We're surrounded by farmland.
Surrounded, and it's not this factory farm bullshit. It's like
old school good farms.
Yeah.
I started doing raw milk. Have you ever done that?
No.
It's awesome. I've been drinking it for 4 years.
The only way for that to work would be if it's from a local farm.
Local farms.
Okay, if it's factory farm raw milk, I wouldn't touch it.
No, I would never touch factory farm.
It'd probably have shit in it.
So
like literal.
So there's something to be said about the old ways. I think they were valuable. Now you haven't like before, like when your grandparents, because your grandparents and my grandparents probably grew up around the same time, right? They all had gardens. They all had chickens in their backyard. On Bryn Mawr Street, there was gardens and chickens. I was like, that's insane. I didn't even realize that. According to the Home Rule Charter of Scranton, you can have two
chickens.
Yeah, no roosters. But if you get,
they're loud.
They don't like them. But you would have your proteins for the day, and you could get your produce in your garden if you wanted. You could can.
You got fertilizer for your garden.
There were other people around who had different stuff in their garden. You could barter, you could trade, you could do all this stuff. No one had to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, my Italian grandmother growing up in Southside, that's just how it was. Everybody had fruit trees. Like people would be like, "Don't steal my apples."
One of the things that I wanted to do if I ever got elected to school board was like, no one knows how to grow a seed. Let's teach kids the simplest thing in the world.
They're doing that in my son's class over at
awesome
school.
But they should have like little gardens over there. Hey kids, for lunch today we're eating all of the beets that you guys grew.
I just got an email that there's a tree planting festival at Scranton High. I wonder if they're going to they should do fruit trees.
You have a lot of land over there where you could do that. You could even grow at West Side, believe it or not. It's unbelievable. You could put like a greenhouse or something there.
Oh yeah.
But I look at the world where it's like, okay, somebody turns all the power off. What do we do?
Yeah. A lot of us just die.
Not the Lebanese though. They'll argue their way back into some food.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of things that are lacking, like just simple life skills that like the public school system is just neglecting, like how to balance a checkbook, how to fry an egg.
That is a lot of some of the it's a major problem. I taught for 17 years and I left. It was 2.5 years ago, and I always would ask the kids, like, what is it that you wish you knew? They're like, I don't even know what taxes are. Like, why is that coming out of my paycheck? And it's like,
Is that in civics? Do they teach that in civics?
So here's the thing. Most schools have civics in like 9th grade, and I don't think that that's necessarily practical. No, I think you need to do it when they're a little older and can understand the complexities of these things, especially as they're going out to work and now they're paying taxes. It's you can understand government when you interact with it.
When they see that pay stub with FICO and everything coming out of it, it's a lot easier for that teenage brain to grasp.
Yes, but I want to compliment the Scranton School District in general, because they flipped the script at Scranton High, because they had me come in and they make their kids, they start in their government class, not with the founding, or excuse me, I shouldn't say founding. They're doing modes of government. They start with school board and work their way up to president, instead of start at president and work their way down. Because
so it's after school board, like mayor, then commissioners.
Yeah, like school board, council, mayor, commissioners, state reps, state senators, congressmen, senators, president. And that they do that, and the teachers, great teachers, they brought us down and they were telling us it's effective. And all these kids had great questions, because they taught the kids that I am the guy who affects their education. And people don't learn that. That's practical to know. Like, get in your representatives' faces. Because we're your neighbor. And 9 times out of 10, unless you're voting for solicitor, you care about helping somebody. So I thought that was a good one.
Unless you're voting for solicitor.
You took a second, but I'm glad it came through.
Yeah, I was like, wait, how did solicitor? Oh.
But yeah, so like, I had a kid right when I got on there was like complaining about the food. I was like, can we just get better food? And I said, you know what? We're going to bid out the food service contract next year. And that's happening like as we speak. We're bidding it out, and we might get do
you guys look at the ingredients in the food?
So yeah, that's actually
for part of your bid.
This is part of the process. Absolutely. It's cost is part of it, but quality. I said, I want quality food, but these days,
like more than 5 ingredients, like shit like that food. You should kind of, this is a suggestion. You should kind of give yourself like guardrails for healthy food. Like single ingredient ones are always the best ones to do. But like if you're going to get like processed foods, like try to have no more than 5.
I want as little of that as possible. And I basically, I've seen those videos of lunch comparisons between like America versus like Italy, Finland, whatever.
Yeah, they're really out of gardens. It looks like they're going to Spago.
Well, and honestly, that is what's happening over there.
Yeah,
you know,
that's not a lie.
I physically never feel better than when I'm eating in Italy.
You go over there, you eat like a pig, right? And you lose weight.
And somehow, you've lost weight. You feel better.
And you don't feel like
skin doesn't look like shit.
Yeah, you don't feel like you have a Happy Meal hangover. Yeah, you know. What's in our food, dude? Yeah, it was funny. Like 2 weeks ago, I was just feeling like shit. And I couldn't figure out why, and I realized, oh my god, I've been eating out for 3 days, and then I'm like, I'm just gonna start making some stuff from scratch, and then I felt better. So we're like, the concern is like one of the biggest problems that's holding kids back is poverty, and to fix that, we poisoned them. Do you see what I mean? Where it's like you're eating these chemicals.
Wrong. So it's that cruelty wrapped in empathy thing.
Yes.
You know, well, we want to feed them, so like we'll just give them garbage, so that at least they're not hungry. But that's one of the reasons we're bidding.
Fortified.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why we're bidding this out. You know, and some of them,
I think you should look, if you're willing to waste all that money on those lawyers. I think it's okay to waste a little bit of money. Just make sure you get healthier food for the kids.
Yeah.
Especially the ones who are like, especially the ones in like grade school and elementary.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah,
and so we're in the middle of that process.
Awesome.
And we'll be reviewing the bids and making a decision and going from there. And I whatever looks like that Italian lunch that the kids have, that's what I want.
Does that come with an espresso with some sambuca in it?
I don't think the kids can have sambuca.
Only in the teacher's lounge.
My 5-year-old drinks coffee. He's been doing it since he's 3.
What do you think? So it seems like look, there's there's three sides about what's going on in America right now. There's the one side who it's like total, they see everything going on as total chaos. There's the side that sees it as like, this is everything I voted for. And there's the side that sees it as like, I really don't care. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, nothing's in it. Like, it's always this ebb and flow of crazy. What do you think? Do you think? I think that the country, and especially locally, like I now see, and it's not the right, it's the left. The left are going after the left politicians who maybe associate with conservatives or might share an idea with a conservative.
I don't know that that's what I see. Check
my Facebook feed.
I know. So I guess it depends. You're talking about a lot of paradigms here. So what's the word? Is it internecine warfare? Is that when you fight inside? I think that's the word. So there's a lot of that going on, and I think it's a byproduct of I'm going to say like maybe the idea of moral superiority. First of all, I think almost everybody believes they have moral superiority to some extent because you believe that you're right. Everybody believes that they're right.
Sure.
It's just how much do you believe that you can be wrong? You know, so
ooh, that's a really good barometer.
Yeah, and so that's kind of how I
like. Are you open to being incorrect?
Yeah, and it's funny because one of the things I try to teach my kids, because my son Tom would always get upset if he was wrong or made a mistake. I'm like, bud, that's how you're right next time. You figured it out. You won by being wrong.
Is this going to define me, or what did I learn from this?
You don't win anything by being right. You now have new knowledge because you're wrong, and that's something that I've always tried to live by. So that's why I can talk to people I disagree with and not hate them.
Yeah.
You know, but there are people who are like good, what I would call like, not good Democrats is the wrong word, but like staunch Democrats who would be like, why are you even associating with that dude? Because he voted for Trump in 2016. I'm like, who gives a fuck? He's a person. I like him. And so that orthodoxy is unconsciousness is kind of from Orwell is a major problem. But that exists in both parties because you have people who are like, oh, you're not MAGA enough, therefore I am going to run against you. Or you're not pro-Trump enough. Or you're too pro-Trump. Or you're not a traditional conservative. Or you're a neocon. Or people are just going to fight each other no matter what because there's a battle of ideologies that are both inside both parties and between both parties. And what I've come to realize is that the average person, which I would consider all of us in this room, we're a combination of the three things you just said. So this is what I voted for, but also, you know, not everything affects me. And also things are kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So like I'm all three of what you just described. Now I didn't vote for this. But I understand like the country didn't like the way things were going. And they're like, let's try something different.
Or let's try something we tried before.
Yeah. Or that. And we often do that. Often. But really,
we know how he did.
Yeah, and this is a whole different ballgame because of that. But like I said, the average people, most of us, if you just have a conversation, we're all pretty much in the same page that like we want everybody to have a good life, we want everybody to feel safe and secure, we want people to not be hungry, especially kids,
sure,
and we want opportunity to live a good life and have our basic needs met. I think that's a low bar that somehow America has failed at. And I think that's why you see people looking to the chaos and liking it. I think that's why you see people disengage. And I think that's why you see people fighting each other because nobody knows what the fuck to do because deep down, we have no power. That's kind of where I'm at.
We really don't. Well, but the thing is like the people should have.
Locally,
the voice and the power.
Locally, you have power, but nationally, we don't, unless you're rich, because money speaks, and our country has decided.
And meanwhile, you have all these people like, and I'm finding like they're cruel.
Yeah,
they're very cruel to me, and I'm not to them. Like there are people who are like, I'll give you an instance without actually saying the name. It's like there's somebody running for office where people are like, "You're friends with Mark."
I'm glad you brought this up because I'm sure that Yanni and Fox, their number one argument against me, if they watch this, and they stalk my Facebook, so they probably will.
They'll watch it out of the Victorian freak show.
But then what they'll do is they'll be like, well,
Ricky Lake.
Well, he talked to Mark Denenbaum. Therefore, everything he said is incorrect. And it's a bullshit ad hominem, like, what's the guilt by association bullshit.
Yeah.
But they're making a judgment that's based on a false premise. But that's all they got. They don't have an
but
argument.
they're presuming I'm evil.
Yeah. And that's stupid. But I know that, and I've seen people treat you this way, and it's dumb. You'll talk to anybody.
Yeah.
And you'll do it without judgment, even if you disagree. Who cares? We disagree on a lot of stuff. We're still bros.
Yeah.
Who cares?
So you and I grew up that way though. Like there was this thing where it was like, yeah, I don't agree with him, but like he's my friend.
He's my buddy. He's a cool dude. Let's go
and
hang out.
And then somewhere, I believe around 2012, shit went weird.
I was reading an article about this. We're like self-isolating in bubbles. And I think the internet has a lot to do with it, where we don't get exposed to alternate perspectives. And I said to you earlier, one of the reasons I was successful as a teacher. They didn't know if I was conservative or liberal because all I did was argue. And it was just the intellectual exercise.
Do you think that they were concerned about they're just like Mr. Borthwick's an asshole?
You know what?
You really think they were going like, I wonder if he's a D or an R? I really don't know. And the one kid was finally like, no, he's just an asshole. Like that's the way he is.
There probably were a couple of those. But it was always with a point, and I was never.
But that's debate, Tom.
Yeah, no, I know. And
like dinner tables used to be like I heard Robert Kennedy say this. His dinner table was with his dad, Robert Kennedy, was take the side of this country or this person. You take the side of this country or this person, and see if you can make the argument for your point of view.
Yeah.
And we don't do that anymore. We don't walk a mile in somebody else's shoes anymore.
And that's education. And I used to do exercises where I would be like, what do you think? What do you think? Okay, good. Argue each other's positions against each other. Whoever wins gets a higher grade. Imagine that as an intellectual exercise.
Yeah, where you take somebody
trying to see
like,
somebody else's
somebody
perspective.
pro-abortion to now be argue as pro-life.
Yep. You have to argue the thing that you disagree with vehemently, and you'll get a better grade if you do a better job. And that's
But don't you think things like that
makes you
really?
think.
It literally makes you a critical thinker.
Yeah, it's a lost art, and I think.
Why did we lose that art? Shouldn't that be the place in public education where it's at?
Yeah, I do think that part of the problem is everybody's fear. There's a combination of cultural fear of argument, but also I do think that there's this idea that we like, and I think it's changing, and changing is the word, and I don't know what it'll change into, but the idea of like in public spaces being afraid to offend people. And you see it a lot with comedians. Like Bill Burr, I love listening to him. He says shit that would probably in isolation be considered misogynistic, offensive, anti-woman, whatever. But he's funny, but he's also usually making a good social point.
Yes.
So are we going to say we're never going to listen to this guy because he uses some language that we disagree with, or are we going to listen to the underlying point? And sometimes people can't get past the threshold. They can't. They knock on the door and they're like, I'm not going in there because I see something offensive, and that's that orthodoxy. Like I believe that only these things are permissible. Therefore, I won't even talk to people outside that box or outside.
What would that form of either ideology or political product in the past be called?
You would hope it would be moderately normal. I mean,
no. What I'm saying is like people who are like, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm not going to.
Like the people who are boxing themselves out, or the people
the people who are boxing themselves out, thinking that they're correct because they won't listen to that thing.
Oh, okay.
Like in history,
I'm not even giving you the time of day. I don't know, because
that's more like a personality. But the problem is they gather in a group.
Yeah, and so
what would that be called?
Is that almost like puritanical?
Yeah,
authoritarian.
That's all part of it. I go back. You're having me think of
oppression.
I don't know that that's. Let me frame it from a different perspective. What you are talking about had me immediately thinking about how the founding fathers made the country. They got into a room, got shit-faced, and fought, and then we got a document.
Yeah, and now that's poo-pooed on.
Yeah, and
words are violence.
Yeah.
And apparently Thomas Jefferson and George Washington were antithetically opposed against each other.
Yeah, a lot of them fought, but they were still buddies, because they, much like we talked about, like looking at different perspectives, you could look at different perspectives and arrive at at a conclusion that might be better than if you didn't listen to each other.
Yes,
and actually,
that's the conversation. That's the important
And
part.
Jefferson and Adams were good at that. Like they were diametrically opposed, and then they like you could read the letters between them where they debate these very deep-seated political and governmental and bureaucratic and idealistic concepts, and they began as enemies and died as friends
on the same day.
on the same day, and which I think was the 4th of July, right?
I don't know.
Okay, sorry. Maybe I made that up because I was getting too
We
patriotic.
need Aaron back in here for that.
We had Aaron Sapkowski on last week. He knows everything about history. He was the one who told us about like George Washington did not want political parties.
He didn't. I know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
and
he
Jefferson
thought
was
they
the one
would-
who really pushed it, and he and Washington was very resentful of Jefferson for doing that.
Yeah. There's two arguments, and they're both good arguments. The Washington argument is people would sort and become factional, and Jefferson basically said, yes, but that's not a bad thing because you want to be able to associate with people who can help you further your goals. Both of those arguments sound really good, don't they?
Yeah, but in theory, they can get corrupted very fast
I
with
mean-
ideas or people or whatever.
But then then take them to the next step. So Jefferson's idea could lead to what you just described, but Washington's idea could lead to cults of personality and uninformed populism. Because if nobody has any group, you can just go to the nearest demagogue when you're feeling bad.
Yeah, but so we're talking about like 1780 was the first Jefferson. So if you think of historically about the country, I don't think the things that exist today existed then, right? And whether or not you have, there was multiple parties back then, which I think is not a bad thing. But at the same time, like the demagoguery, the Jim Jones types or people like that you can't escape those. They just happen.
They do.
And it doesn't matter what roadblocks you put on. But the thing about America is like it's supposed to be, in my opinion, that like you could stave off the Jim Jones types by the idea of free speech and public discourse, because those are the things that are going to be like, he wants you to drink Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid sounds great. There's poison.
Yeah. But there's one caveat there. It's poison.
Yeah.
And what they did was is they go, okay, we're going to go to a place where no one's going to question us about this because we bought fucking land.
And that's what I would call cultural and intellectual isolationism. And that is probably a massive contributing factor. And I think the internet has exacerbated that because you could just go whatever weird shit you think of. What's that? What is it? Rule 34? Like if you can think of it, it's porn. Like
wait, what?
Oh, it basically it's if you can think of anything, it exists on the internet. I think it's called Rule 34. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Bottom line is, if you can think of a crazy thing, there's going to be people out there that you can find and become a group, part of a group with it that will meet your needs with that thing. That's part of the self-isolation and the moving into different culture groups and intellectual groups that cut you off. And that happens all over the place. And I was seeing it in real time as a teacher. I see it in real time, like socially. I see it on social media. People want to self-sort because nobody likes.
Why does everybody want to fit in these boxes?
They don't see it that way. They see it as being with their
a
allies.
community.
Yeah, because everybody wants to feel like they belong.
Yeah, so we're all on our phones. Nobody talks to their neighbors. Yet I want to feel like I'm part of a community. It doesn't make any fucking sense because that's not a community.
So it in their minds it might meet that need because I mean human beings are communal by nature. We need that.
Yeah, but not via our cell phones. You know what I mean?
It's happening anyway.
I know. That's the thing that's like very destructive to me is because I always talk about like these new technologies and these things as like hammers, right? You can use it to build something or you can use it to destroy. And when it first came out, everybody should have been vigilant about like, look, just like a gun. Here's how this works. Here's what it could lead to. Here's what we need to all be responsible for. And it's not to say like we should censor or we should do any of that stuff. But when everybody's educated on like this new potential problem, which I believe is like the goddamn cell phones, I don't like now it's a hammer. Now it just is used for destruction and it's used it for division and vitriol. And look, my side's misinformation is your side's misinformation is another side's misinformation. And you're like, it's like my dad would say, he's like, he owned a steel company. We would have to sue people, or people would sue us. We would get our experts. They'd get their experts. They're both graduates of the same fucking school. Yet they came to two different conclusions. So who's right?
The one who paid more.
The jury's there to decide.
No, I know. But ultimately what you're describing as a problem can't be solved.
Well, I think we're way past the solving of it.
Yeah, our system is not going to allow for it because
unless there's an EMP.
Yeah. I'm not just blaming cell phones, but it is a major part of it.
But culturally, we had a responsibility, right? And you don't see these things happen. You only see the forks. You only see the in hindsight. Do you see like, oh, we should have really paid attention to that?
I mean, there's a lot of things that we could say in that regard.
No one can deny that, like, in the history that they tell us, as opposed to like a history that might not be what they tell us. In the history that they tell us, there is no time on planet Earth where you have peak pleasure and peak communication. Pleasure is literally this away. Whether it's, Tetris or social media or a friend or whatever, you can get pleasure just like that.
So
it's a dopamine burst.
Yeah, instant gratification.
Right?
I get it.
And communication is you can now, a millisecond, send something to Antarctica. And they will get it in Antarctica, which is something that has never happened as far as we know in the history of this country, history of this world, which is peak pleasure and peak communication.
Okay, so
and
I
they're
get
a dangerous combo.
I get your argument is a really good one. So it kind of jives with what I was saying in the sense that you're basically saying total interconnectedness has actually caused disconnection, which makes perfect sense
to the human spirit.
Yeah. Well, if people wanted to socialize, when we were young, you go knock on the neighbor's door and you go socialize.
Or you go hang in the Burger King parking lot.
Yeah. Or you go back to the woods.
Yeah.
And I don't know. As my kids get older, I guess I'll get a better sense of how that's played out with them. But
bring them back to parties in the woods, man. Don't let them make sure they knock on their neighbors' doors if they're doing like I see it now with like the Fortnites and the Roblox and all that shit, and you're like, yo, there are scumbags.
So it's all fine. Let them play Roblox and Minecraft. There's no harm in just monitor it.
So I have it on.
Don't monitor it.
I have it on the Xbox so that the crazy people don't.
Yeah. That's all it's set up to.
But think about that. You were like parents now, right? Most of them ignorantly, not willfully, ignorantly, have now allowed, with no guardrails, the guy who used to be the pervert that called on the phone.
Yeah.
And now he's connected in a room full of children.
Yeah. And there are people that like online personalities that my kids either encounter or their classmates like tell them about. And it's like, oh my God. It's not, so you have access to what I would call a globalized value system. And you're now divorced from your community.
Yes.
Because you're getting stuff from way far afield.
It's a fiction.
Yeah. And I'm cognizant of it, but problematically, lots of people would not be. And it's a combination. I'm not going to say it's malicious, because it's hard to be a parent. It's hard to be in a society, but that there's no real, to me, it feels like it's an impossible, wall to climb over to fix this, other than if we see a social shift where people just get disgusted with the constant bickering, disconnection. Like, how many people after the election just stopped reading the news? Lots.
The most recent one?
Lots of people are like, you know what? I'm done listening to this shit. And there were polls and surveys that like people just like, you know what? I'm just not going to read the news for like 6 months. And a lot of people are just disengaged.
And they do it because of the vitriol or because they were lied to?
Probably a combo.
Okay. I got burned out like 3 weeks ago. I just stopped watching everything I used to watch. I just can't fucking take it anymore with everything. I don't want to hear anything else about this anymore. And I'm done.
I am 100% with you. And I often will do that myself. And then you feel better. And then guess what? You're going to go to the bar and talk to somebody. And there's just going to be a game on and you're going to be like, the Phillies are crushing it again. That's pretty cool. Yeah. And it's like, wow, that was a nice, meaningful social interaction where I didn't need to hear about the complete collapse of fucking everything. But I don't know how you precipitate that in a macro way. Really, it's kind of like I've said this to you and many people, and I think a lot of people should hear it. You can only control what you can control. And we need to admit to ourselves that shit that you just tuned out from, we can't do shit about it other than make ourselves miserable. So maybe let's look at the things we can control. That's one of the reasons why I'm happy to be on the school board, to bring it full circle. I'm directly impacting education. So we might have been talking about a lot of things that I would consider negative, because negativity and problems are
Interesting.
They're interesting. They're
Salacious.
Salacious people gravitate toward it.
And the main export of Northeast PA is gossip.
We love it.
Yeah.
But what I said was not gossip for the most part. Everything was just just the facts, man.
I know.
But I do want to say.
But others will talk about this as gossip.
Oh yeah. But I want to say this, and maybe this is a good end note. I don't know where you want to go, but to bring it all together. In the time I've been on the board, no tax increases for 2 years when we have been brutalized as a city by board tax increases. No tax increases. We're in the best financial position we've been in our lifetimes. We have more money set aside for emergencies than Riverside's budget.
Nice.
Like yearly budget. Like we're finally being smart, and we're now using that money to invest in programs. So let me list them. We brought preschool back in January. The stuff that Gil Martin's board and Fox's board eliminated, they got rid of those. We brought it back. And guess what? In the 25-26 school year, we're going to have more preschool classrooms.
Okay, because that was one of the questions I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you answered it.
Talk about that being a good thing. Then, they gutted the arts, gutted them, and you could see it. There was 100 kids on the marching band at West Side. The population's actually a little bigger. And now that now
it looks like the Napoleon Dynamite,
but it's coming back.
They were always amazing,
and they always were
always amazing.
They looked up to the blue band. They would go on field trips to go see the blue band.
And that doesn't mean any of those kids that are playing right now. It's just like volume.
But
it was 100 kids. And they were all playing in the stands. It was amazing, and there was an energy.
They cut all the programs.
That's a shame.
So this year we started restoring them, and then next year we're continuing to restore them. We call it, when we talk about it publicly, fixing the middle school schedule. But that's us bringing the arts back. And guess what? I want to go back to the days when in 4th grade, you put a violin in a kid's hand and that kid takes it home and practices it for homework. Because that's what happened to me. And so
that's how you became gay?
As in happy? Yes.
Joyous?
Yes, joyous. You can hear the joy.
Yeah.
So those are the things that we're doing. And I'm working on some financial stuff to help us to the tune of millions. I saved us we're deep into the $10 million range in capital improvement projects. Like they wanted to put a new roof on the 20-year-old Scranton High School, which it's a metal roof. It lasts 50 years. Basiliga said I could patch this for $5,000. We were going to spend $10 million. I'm like, let's not.
Big difference.
Yeah, slightly. Yeah. So like I can say that I have done good things, and that's me telling everybody who is listening, you can control what you can control. Like, get involved locally. And if you can't, I get it. It's very hard. It's time consuming in my life. It's hard for everybody on the board. And God love everybody who devotes their time to it, as long as they're doing good things. And so I'm thinking, like, if you want to get involved, you can reach out to your local politicians. We're your neighbors. You can find us. You can't find Donald Trump. You can't find your senator. You rarely can you find your congressman, but you can find your school board members, and you can find your councilman, and maybe in Scranton you can't find your mayor, but somewhere else you could. So that's what you need to do.
Should I go to Waverly?
And that's what you need to do to be involved. So if you're sick of the national stuff, which how could you not be? What's cool that's going on in Scranton? We're planting 75 trees at Scranton High pretty soon, just as a cool thing.
Will you let me know about that? I would love to see that.
Yeah, I saw the email.
Are you planting the seeds, or are they already grown and you're going to put them in?
I think they're like seedlings, or saplings, I guess is the word. I'm sorry, like little guys. Although I wish they should plant an orchard. That's what I want there.
That'd be beautiful. Or like
awesome. Blueberries, orchard. They should honestly plant stuff that grows food and let these kids grab an apple from the tree on the way home.
Yes. And then in a few weeks, the homeless will be living under it with big massive tents. I saw a homeless thing the other day that had a chimney.
They're starting a society from scratch.
It looked like Hooverville. I'm like, what is this? What time is it?
Almost.
Okay.
7.
You're good, right? You could probably do this for another 4 hours.
Oh, I mean, I could probably talk till tomorrow.
I appreciate, let me ask you this. This will be the last question. Do you have, so there's a bunch of school board positions up, and there's not a lot of people running.
Too bad, yeah.
But it seems like those running will probably get in, -1 maybe.
Yeah.
Unless the vacancy gets filled by one of them.
No, they can still run because Katie Gilmartin, who wasn't running anyway, so they can serve out her term and then take her spot.
Okay. So do you feel that with the current crew that's running, DNR, which I do think that, number one, I think that school board should not be a political job to run for.
Yeah, that's why they cross-file.
There's no Republicans on the board, which is bizarre to me.
You mean registered?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you, the candidates coming in that are probably going to be there next January, do you think that they will be helpful in moving the mission forward that has been going on for like the last 2-3 years?
So if we're talking my definition of the mission, I think most of them can. And, I hate to say stuff like this, but I need people I can work with, and I make my judgments based on how, and that's with like me thinking that I have a better idea than somebody, which is probably arrogant to an extent, but I am also
cut to me.
Yeah. But also I am willing to be wrong and to evolve. Like I got into a debate with the superintendent about, is it better to have tracks or to have academies? And she's like, you know what? You
like running tracks?
No, I'm sorry. Educational tracks, like vocational, technical, maybe STEM being a track instead of an academy, and maybe a performing arts track, because we don't have anything like that right now, and maybe expanding those things to reach kids who could use them. And she had a different perspective than me, and she made a great argument. And she said, go see this school and check it out. And I learned. So even though what I'm about to say is going to sound like I'm uncompromising, I'm always happy to learn and be wrong, because I can be better next time. So I'm going to say that I want people on the board who I can work with. And I believe that my vision is the correct one. And I laid that out. I'm not raising taxes at all in my entire 4-year term. Just not doing it. I'm going to continue to grow preschool. So I am not compromising on that. I'm going to continue to restore the arts. I am not compromising on that. I am going to utilize our fund reserves to invest it in stable, interest-bearing accounts that grow our fund balances without causing any harm to the district.
Which means you can help with infrastructure.
Yeah. And I am going to use the money I've saved on capital improvement bullshit to do actual things that are needed. Like West Scranton needs a lot of love, because for years they're like, we're going to close it, so let's not do anything for it. So, now
imagine all the kids there that are like, oh, this is like the school that everyone keeps saying they're going to close. And,
And that's not happening. And I'm not closing schools. So I just kind of listed like just 7 random things that are not random, but 7 things that I have that are values that you can try to convince me I'm wrong. And maybe you will one day, but right now you're not going to. So I am going to support the people who can help me enact that agenda or keep enacting that agenda. So
do you think there's some in the next crop?
Yeah. So Danielle Chezik is running. She's already.
You don't have to name them if you don't want to. I don't want to seem like an endorsement. And
I mean, they're all basically going anyways after the primary. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, Jenna Strzelecki is excellent.
She's new. I've never heard of her.
West Sider. She's the city business manager of Pittston.
Oh, well, then she knows.
She's an MBA.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wait, why does she want this? Why would she want to do this?
I don't know. Why would I want to do this? Why would anyone want to do this?
Because you like a good fight and you really love kids and education.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, so maybe she feels the same way. And Joe Brazil, who is just great.
I love Joe Brazil.
Yeah. He was the head of IT for the district. He knows the district very, very well. He's retired. He can devote the time to it. He knows
probably more shit about the district He's probably forgotten more shit about the district than most people know about the district.
Yep.
Joe Brazil.
Yeah. And John Howe is going to definitely advance.
Have you met him yet?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Our
Awesome.
kids are in the wrestling program.
He's a really good dude. He was
Yeah.
on the podcast before.
Yeah, I like John. He's a really good guy. I could definitely work with him. We have a lot of similar values about what needs to happen with the district.
He was very young in his youth that he made the choice that this will not define me.
Good.
And he's come a long way as just as a human being. And
I found out I taught his brother at Riverside, actually.
Well, I'm really grateful that John's running. I really like John Howe.
Me too.
He's overcome so much.
Yeah, I think I would like to see him have like a more organized effort as a campaign.
He's on his own, man. Yeah. Help him.
I text him about events. I try. I think he can offer more if he isn't on his own.
Please, whoever you know or whatever that can help him, please help him.
Yeah,
because number one, he deserves it. He's not one to ask for help. He's a good guy.
Yeah, well, you can't be in politics and not ask.
You know what I mean? He's not.
No,
if there's a problem, he's there. Like, yo, we got to fix this.
Yeah, I get that. Well, and actually, I've gotten to know Jenna recently, and she's like that. She's like, oh, well, I don't want to bother people. I'm like, you run for office. You got to bother everybody.
Do you think Jenna? I'd be curious to talk to her and meet her.
Yeah, she's great.
I'd love to talk about what they're doing in Pittston.
Yeah, I know. It's such an amazing town. And she's at the center. She's their business manager.
Yeah,
she is at the center.
15 years ago, you're like, Pittston.
Yeah.
And now you're like, holy shit.
Pittston.
Like, they're crushing it down there. Like, they got, I'm not a drinker, but they have good bars. And
I mean, I was just, right before I came here, I was at Blind Cat Brewery dropping off some cider. So,
okay. I'm just reading this real quick just to see. What's the one thing listeners should take away about Scranton education or just doing the right thing?
those are two wildly different things.
I think there's three.
Okay, so
Scranton education or just doing the right thing. What's
so
the
not
one,
Scranton education? They're two different. Okay, I understand.
what's the one thing listeners should take away about Scranton? Oh, okay. What's the one thing Scranton?
Okay, I understand.
Education or just doing.
We're
the
talking
right thing?
about an Oxford comma issue.
Yeah.
I got it. So
A what?
it doesn't matter. Whatever. It's a nerd joke.
Yeah.
English teacher nerd joke. So no one's gonna get it ever.
Nobody got it.
It's fine.
When I was in Britain, just arguing people in Oxford,
We use.
they should never get their own comma.
American English uses it too.
Have you ever heard of the Howard comma?
I don't know.
This is something new that I just found out about. You know Terrence Howard, the actor?
Yeah.
He has now a patent on something called the Howard comma. It's insane. We'll talk about it another day.
Okay.
Our listeners.
So
Education.
what do I want people to take away? I kind of did the big takeaway thing when I was just talking about it. You know,
All the things that you're doing. And
well, no, not that. Just that you can affect things positively in your sphere, and you know it's okay to get miserable, or upset, or disaffected by what's going on nationally, internationally. You know, and it does trickle down here. You can't control those things, but you can control where you're at, and that's what I think people should maybe start engaging with. And there's so many people out in the community who are involved in the community, like just simple things like being a baseball coach. That's awesome. You know, being on the school board and having a positive impact. That's awesome. You don't have to do the big political thing, but you just get involved in your community and control what you can control, affect what you can affect. You're never powerless.
I think it's pay attention and communicate. One of the biggest things that.
Well, fuck me then.
But you're doing this, but you're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, no,
right?
I just had a good moment where I could just.
I just think about it more broadly, where it's like, you know, if you pay attention to what's going on and you communicate with people, and that I think that's the biggest problem right now is that this is my concern that the sides are so dug into the dirt that no one's willing to talk to people they disagree with. And I like to talk to people I disagree with, not maliciously or to like win something.
you learn.
I want to, how do you view? Like, for instance, supposedly, next freak. that was Freudian. I didn't mean to say that. Frankie Malacaria, who's running for city council. Him and I basically are the polar opposites of what we believe in.
You gonna interview him?
Yeah, he's coming on next week.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Next freak.
Yeah. But I've met him at things, and
He's a great
we've
guy.
had conversations. Like,
I like him a lot.
I don't think he's, you know, I think that like, I think we can have a good dialogue, and you know, I don't think that I'm going to sway his opinion. I don't think he's going to sway mine, or who the hell knows?
Or maybe one of you will learn something.
Or maybe we'll be like, hey, we could combine these two things, and they would be awesome together.
Captain Planet.
Yeah, and I
Powers
think
combined.
I'm just getting tired of calling a Nazi, fascist, bigot, transphobe. So
Stop
I'm,
being one.
I'm talking.
Does that happen on the daily these days?
Every day. Every day. My wife has, since Trump was elected, and you can check my social media, I have never once in my life written MAGA. Ever. I've never once written I'm voting for Donald Trump. I've never once written he's anything like, if it's like I was more a Kennedy guy, so I'm a big Maha person. Like, I'm really big on like, make sure the food that we're eating is clean, make sure that the air is clean, make sure the water we're drinking is clean.
That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, just don't poison us. Like, walk into a grocery store, take a selfie, look behind you. What percentage of that food is processed? That's a big deal. I think that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
I think it plays into a lot of the reasons why we see children with depression or mental health issues, or like, I'll say it. When I was growing up, people weren't shaped the way they are. I think it has something to do with the food. You know what I'm talking about. There's some weirdly shaped people out there who that they're eating terrible food.
Yeah.
I want our children to be healthy. I want our children to be happy. I want them to learn. I want them to go outside, kick dirt.
All good things.
Learn. Yeah, I'm not a monster, and I know that you know that, but it's kind of hard sometimes when you're like, every day you're.
So you're not a Lady Gaga fan?
Not really.
She's a fantastic singer.
Wait. Can I make one caveat?
No, so aren't her fans called monsters?
Yes. She's Mama Monster. Yeah, they're the little monsters.
They're little monsters.
Okay, but you're not a monster in any sense of the
No,
word.
but I will say, as much as I think Sam Smith is evil, that one song is a banger. I forget. Do you know the song I'm talking
Take
about?
Me to the Church. That one.
Take me to
No. Take Me to Church is a different one. It's like where he's dressed like Satan or something like that, and it's really risque, but the beat's so good.
I think that is that one.
Is it?
Yeah.
Take Me to Church. How's it go?
Satan in church.
Take me to church.
No, that's Hosier.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, I know what you're talking
I have
about.
no
All right,
idea.
hold on.
I have no idea what's happening.
I'm going to find it right now because Spotify will let us play this.
Hold on, I can play this on here too.
Yeah, you can't. You're slower. You're slower than old people having sex.
Unless they're on coke.
No, Sam Smith. I said Sam Harris. I'm an idiot.
I don't know who either of these people are.
You know Sam Smith. You know this song.
I'm old.
Oh, here it is.
And I don't like new music anymore.
It's called Unholy.
Oh, that appeared on TikTok for like a couple of months.
Oh yeah, at the Body Shop.
Okay.
It's so good. But there's a lot of weird connotations behind it.
I mean,
500 years ago, you'd be like, this is weird.
Yeah.
All right. So anything else?
No, this is lovely.
I have to go look at a dog right now.
You aren't already?
No, shut the fuck up. Keep doing what you're doing, man. I how much like I love you, and I love I'm all love, and I love talking to you. I think you have really unique perspectives, and I think they're incredibly thought out.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, they're not just like
try to
fly
think
by
about
the night, by the seat of your pants shit. And you really genuinely do care about children's education, and you do care about the wellness of anybody, Democrat, Republican, independent.
I'll talk to anybody.
That's why I think like we need more people like you. I love the fact that like you will stab people in the heart. I think, what do you think's going to happen with after tonight? You think am I going to start getting more hate because I had Tom Borthwick on?
I don't know.
Talk shit about.
They've really been targeting like McAndrew and Daniel Cheswick more so than me because I'm
targeting.
I'm not on the ballot. They're attacking those two. So maybe you'll be.
So this is a political bullshit thing.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's all because they've got an election. They want to make them look bad.
So they're more worried about board members running in elections than they are worried about the safety or education of the children.
100%. That they're going to say no because it's going to get them all.
But it's obvious.
The vape.
That's what they're doing.
They're going to get the vapors. But yes, that's exactly what's happening. And that's how they operate. And it's politics, so I don't blame them. They want to accomplish their political goals. They'll do it the shittiest means possible. And unlike them, like I said, I'll stab you in the heart before I'll stab you in the back.
The biggest hope I can have from this is that if they did watch it, they might have a little perspective and maybe.
You are more hopeful than I.
That you've always accused me of that. Of being like too nice of a person. I hope that they'd be like, oh, this is the perception that people. Maybe I should talk to them. And
I'm going to tell you the first thing I did when I won the election. I invited every board member who was going to be on there to coffee, every single one, And I said, I'd love to sit down over a coffee or a drink, and I want to know how I can help you accomplish your priorities. There were only 3 who didn't respond. Gilmartin, Fox, and Yanni. I went
Didn't
out.
respond at all.
Didn't even respond. And I went out with the rest of them. Actually, Yanni responded by saying, don't ever text me again.
That was her response?
Yeah. Yeah. This is who we deal with.
I went out for tea with Catherine. I think she's really sweet.
She's not a bad person. She's just,
I don't know how she got caught up in that.
that's what I'm saying. I really don't actually think she's a bad person. I think her compatriot is just rotten.
Yeah, I think people try to manipulate and use her. I think that's what happens. And I think that like I said, man, I really like her, you know?
Yeah,
and
like I said, not a bad soul.
What I've seen at the last 2 or 3 meetings has been like very weird behavior.
Yes.
And I can't put my finger on why.
They're mad that a flyer went out and one of the lawyers at the new law firm had a client that was responsible for it. This gentleman won't respond. You're not going to say who your client is, but they hate that they were made to look bad. And it was funny because there's not one untrue thing on the flyer. So it was.
So basically what you're saying is this is kind of like revenge.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a political and personal. So it's a political vendetta that they made personal. That's exactly what it is.
Using taxpayer money.
Using taxpayer money to engage in it.
It's a good way to end, don't you think, Dave?
I like that.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for always coming here to the Brute podcast studio.
Thanks for the clarification.
Dan, turn the black light on. All right.
Always.
Tom Borthwick, Scranton School Director, wonderful entrepreneur, restaurateur, all around good guy, cares about kids, cares about people, is a humanist at heart. And Dan, you want to say it?
What a week. I chewed my pen the whole time.
Oh, that's awesome.
I hadn't done that in like years. I really, really enjoyed it.
Did you feel good?
Yeah, I ate that little thing off the back.
That's beautiful.
All right, I'm gonna put that at the tail after the end credits.
What's that?
I chewed my pen.
I did chew my pen.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, my pleasure.